Let's go ahead and get this thing started. All right, sir, you ready?
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Oh my God, I'm excited. All right, here we go. So in 3, 2, 1, welcome you guys to another episode of Game Chat with Kamikazevondoom. This week I am having GameDaddy on the podcast this week, and GameDaddy, for a lot of you that don't know, he's primarily on YouTube. He has quite a few channels, but the GameDaddy channel itself currently just under 32,000 subscribers, and he's amassed nearly 9 million views total. Now, GameDaddy, he covers quite an extensive list of video games, and like I said, he does have other channels focused on other video games, so he's quite knowledgeable when it comes to the gaming industry itself. So with that and several other reasons, I decided to have him on the podcast. So welcome for me, GameDaddy. Woo!
Thanks a lot,
What's up, man?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Von Doom. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's always a good day whenever I get to listen to you, and with all the daily uploads you have, usually listen to you every day.
Well, thank you.
So what I do with this podcast is, I guess you could say interview, but it's more of a conversation style. I sit down with either a content creator, streamer, or developer, and we get to learn your background, what kind of got you into the gaming industry, what made you become a content creator, and then we'll kind of move over to like what kind of motivates you to continue providing content, and what kind of advantages and disadvantages you've found on the way. And then I think after all that, we'll go with like some future content kind of topic, and we'll probably dive into the division a little bit, just because obviously we know a lot of the viewers want to hear about that. But first up, let's talk about what created GameDaddy. Like, what got you to this place? How did you even stumble into this? Because I love your channel, and I've always hooked onto, there's like certain statements you'll say in your videos, like you wrote a book and you have other channels and you're a teacher. What? Like, you have so many different things, man. Like, what got you to this point? I can't wait to hear this.
Well, I guess I don't even know how to even start. So I figured out just a few weeks ago that I'm kind of a jack of all trade, master of none, and that always seemed to have a bad connotation. Because everybody wants you to kind of specialize and do this and do that. But
Right.
I think some of us are just wired to be inquisitive enough to try our hands on as much as we want to, just try our hands on. There's a little joy and excitement that, some people get from doing a lot of different things. So I like to do a lot of different things. I just extend myself and stretch out. But I've also started learning as time goes on to dig deep in some of the things that I can consider very important to me. So I have the GameDaddy channel. It was born from the desire to be able to start something on my own that was fruit that just provided some fruit. I wanted to build a portfolio. I don't even know what that even meant when I started. I was like, well, I know I can do commentary. I think so. It's kind of what I told myself. And then I said, well, and I play video games. Why don't I do commentary on video games? Have that as something that I can put on YouTube. And if it were to bring out, any kind of results, I have it. And if the day a potential employer asked me, why should I employ you? What proof do I have that you can actually bring in any measured performance? I could just click YouTube and show them on my phone and say,
Right.
I got 5,000 subs, I got this many views, I got this, and I did it all by myself in my kitchen. Started GameDaddy in my garage. The garage was too cold, so I moved into one corner of the kitchen. We were renting a small house then. My wife, I, and our kid, first kid. We were expecting a second one, and I wanted to do something more. I love my job. By profession, I'm a teacher. I teach in secondary schools, and I was a high school teacher then. So I remember, just coming home, and I wanted to do something on the side, something on the online side. I was doing websites, but I hated doing web design because clients were too specific. They were like, "Oh yeah, I want this little thread hanging down there." I'm like, it's not even necessary. The user just wants to know where to find you, and all, So that just was okay. I'm not dealing with this. And so I started to, realize that in my Division chats on PlayStation, I had a crew that we ran Division together. We'll be in party chats together, just talking. And every time I came online or they came online, I was the guy they told them everything that had changed, all the new gear sets, all the new weapons, everything. I just kind of knew all that stuff from the top of my head. This is when I played much more extensively than the Division 2. I played a lot back then. And so I was kind of a walking encyclopedia for the Division in terms of updates, news, and everything. So I just thought, why not just do this so everybody else could hear what I have to say? And I just made my very first cringy Division video with some weird soundtrack. And I did that. Okay. And that's how the GameDaddy channel started. And it's been 4 years. I took a year off, or almost 2 years off, intermittently. I kind of kept the channel back and forth, so I didn't have a consistent, kind of run. But, back and forth, I've returned. And for the past 2.5 years, I've been on the grind like crazy, part-time, and all that good stuff. So that's it.
And that's probably around where I started following your channel. Was about maybe 2.5 years ago. I'll talk about this, but then I want to go back to something you mentioned and then skipped over.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to do is I like to tell either the content creator, streamer, developer how I was introduced to them. Now, it was funny you mentioned that you've been on the grind for 2.5 years, because I believe it was just let me see if I can check the date. You did a video for the Division. It was actually shortly after. So it's about to be 3 years old, and it was called "Stop Farming Now and Watch This" patch 1.8. Now this was a couple. I want to say a couple months before I started my own YouTube channel, and the amount, so it's at 100,000 views right now. Dang.
Yeah.
All right. So that's where I got introduced to you and your channel, was that video in particular, because what it showed me was that there was other people out there that understood this game has so much information, so many different equations that are in it, so many different variables, so many spinning wheels, if you will, within this game. And I always felt that whenever I was talking to someone, whether it be in the Dark Zone or Underground, I would always feel like there was some sort of lack of knowledge, either in one spot or another. The biggest example I've been giving content creators here recently is I was playing Underground one day, and it was right before I hit max level. I wanted max level to get that Banshee outfit way back in the day. So for all the old Division heads, they remember it used to be called Blind, and it was spelt out like a abbreviation, BLIND.
BLND.
And basically I was searching because that jacket, the what they call Banshee jacket, was amazing to me. I thought it stood out. Well, while I was doing the Underground, I ran into this older gamer, and he was a retired gentleman that basically he was collecting retirement, collecting Social Security, and playing his favorite video game all at once. So every time he would ever talk, he always sounded happy, and that was why. And the way he was talking to me about the game and how he was grinding, it really caught my attention because he kept like really getting into the fact that he had to grind on each character. So he had 4 characters, and he was explaining to me, like, man, I cannot get a 6-piece classification set on one of my characters. I'll get 2 pieces on one character, 2 pieces on another, and this character has 4 pieces, and I just can't get a 6-piece set. And just sitting there in the back of my mind, I was like, why is he talking this way? Everyone knows you could just use the stash and just transfer items over. I don't understand. So he kept talking this way, and then I asked him about a certain weapon. And during that, he explained that he had the weapon, but it was on a different character, and he really wished there was a way he could put it on this character. And at that point, I did one of those face palm, like deep gasps, just,
Mm-hmm.
what?
You
And then
mean
I
you
was
don't know
like,
this?
You don't know about the stash? And he's like, well, what's the stash? And I was like, dude, what do you mean, what's the stash? And he's like, is it a place I need to go to? And I'm like, dude, no, like, let's exit this game. Let's go back to the terminal. Let me show you. And this dude sounded like he was about to cry. It was that impactful that he did not know that knowledge. He had no idea. He said that at the beginning, whenever the tutorials would pop up, you have the option to select don't pop up anymore or don't show me.
Mm.
And apparently he hit that and it just passed over the stash and he never knew. He was grinding 4 different characters to get certain builds, and he thought that because each of his characters had different RNG, that he would eventually get the build that he wanted, but he had no idea that he could share them together. So I basically spent the day with him that day, uh, like talking through all of his gear, coming up with things to do because he had a completely different outlook on the game afterwards. And adding that with this video, the Stop Farming, Do This Now video that you did, and seeing how informative it was, to where it was even teaching people like me certain things that I didn't know about, certain global events or um, stuff like that. And I think that kind of pushed me into more of the mindset that, hey, you know, my buddies keep telling me to make videos, my family keeps telling me to make videos. Maybe I should make videos because I think that sharing information like this would like deeply impact the community as a whole. Because if you're playing in a fire team of 4, you want the other 3 agents on your team to know the game as much as you do, because
Mm.
if they don't, they're either going to slack in certain areas, whether it be timing out your med kits right, whether it be certain flanks, whether it be certain parts of the map that you want to hunker down. There's so much knowledge, and that's excluding even talking about builds, because the concept behind builds at all is so in depth with so many categories of subcategories of other subcategories. There's so much going on with builds that you could talk about that and teach somebody all day about it. You probably have a college lecture about it once a week.
Mm.
And I just think combining all those things together helped push me to content creating myself. And that's why I like referencing it wasn't just that video, but there's several other videos with other content creators that together they were all posted within a month of each other. And within a month after that, I started my channel, and I can directly point to these certain videos, and that was one of them. I'm not trying to get you to, get all giddy, but that's how I was introduced to you. Now, going back to what you had just said. So you said you wanted to, um, start a YouTube channel to build a portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And what exactly was your aim for that? Was it more towards like a technology based job? Because I know you weren't talking about using that as a portfolio for your teaching students.
Oh no, not at all.
Right.
It was more of a kind of PR, public relations, community relations, marketing, just what we all do here on YouTube. What we do is marketing. Whether we like it or not, we are a a marketing arm for the companies that we play their games and talk about them. Whether we say good or bad, we give them a spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
we give them attention, and we give them relevance. That's what we do on YouTube. So people who smack on a game are giving the game attention, regardless.
Exactly.
There are people who would still watch the most negative of negative reviews, and once they see the gameplay, they look and say, well, their brains blank out. Their eyes only see what they see. And then they go start digging deep, and perhaps from a negative review, the game will gain some more sales. Now, that's not even to talk about a positive review and what that might even do. So that's kind of what I, said, maybe this is going to, do something, in that regard and give me some level of experience, because I was trying to create my own work experience for myself. Having never really done entrepreneurship, it was also me thinking about doing entrepreneurship to one day go get a job, which is not what the entrepreneur, you're laughing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of how it started. And then once it started, my mind has basically changed from that. Like, I have a fee now where I'm thinking, I don't care if I make dirt from YouTube or make a lot of money. It doesn't matter to me now. I enjoyed that journey so much that I would do it again for $0.
Exactly.
And so that has now been solidified, where it's either I take my $0 on my own terms, or you bring some outlandish offer before I can put that aside. That's kind of where I am right now. If you're not going to do that, then it's okay. And another thing too was, in order for me to continue to maintain my own sense of independence either way, because I'm doing opinion and commentary based on video games, there is also a weird, eerie eye that looks at that as well. I wanted to keep my day job at the same time until I met certain goals in life before I finally say, okay, I'm going to head on out to step out there and do business full time. But there are things that I still have to take care of. I have a family, so I have to make sure that they're taken care of. And I have to make sure that we have a good, they say foundation, yes. So that if I were to step out and I hit rocky spots, they're not affected by that. I'm the only one that has to deal with, with all of those, which is just basically the mental side, the disappointment or whatever. And those are the things that I want to set in place before I say, okay, I want to go full time and do anything. And it may not be YouTube. Honestly, I don't think I'll be a full time YouTuber. I don't think I have the patience. When I start replying comments and I start trolling people who troll me and all that stuff, I'm like, yeah, you're not gonna be the good full time YouTuber, because I'm a little stubborn. I'm a dissenter. I'm a contrarian. Everything that you can expect the opposite of, you have just found me there. Everybody will be screaming, "There's fire in the mountain." I'm like, get a fire extinguisher. We're gonna go have a picnic there. So you know what I mean? Like, I'm that kind of person who wants to see things from a different perspective, even if sometimes there is no other perspective. I'm over there digging for it. In a way, it's a weird thing that I do, but
I think that kind of goes with the philosophy of don't ask why, but ask why not kind of deal, where it's like a lot of people will ask why, and then there's always that one or two individuals that are like, well why not? Why can't he do that?
Yep.
Man, you said a lot there that I'm trying to. So the comments part, yeah, I've actually, there's many videos where I don't even look at them, because I already know, just based off of the video, that half of them are going to be some sort of snarky, you know,
Mm-hmm.
poking the bear kind of attitude, and then the other ones are those just compliment, you know, kind of how would I want to say that, like a, oh man, there's no real good way of saying that without making it sound like crap. Basically, there's the people that want to talk crap and just try to get a rise out of you, and then there's the other people that they'll just say, you know, nice video, keep it up. And it kind of doesn't add any substance to it. So it's very, I wouldn't say rare, but it's a smaller percentage where there's actually dialogue that's taking place,
Mm-hmm.
where it's a good question. There's more times where it's just people are writing off your content, or they're writing off the idea of this or the idea of that, and they're not really trying to open up dialogue to that topic. They're just trying to shoot it down and kill it before it even gets talked about. And a lot of things, whether people care to like it or not, a lot of things that are done in life and that have changed in life are because people are opening that dialogue. You know,
Yes.
why can't a woman be vice president? Why can't, you know, whatever, you know? And it just opens up that dialogue, gives the option, and without opening up that dialogue, you might not ever get that option.
Mm.
So I love it, man. Now, so what I wanted to get at is, you're talking about entrepreneur and you know, doing this and that and building your portfolio and becoming successful, and then you stumbled upon becoming a teacher. I'm trying to connect these, man. So
I was already
uh
teaching before I did that. I was,
oh,
yes.
okay.
Right after college, my first job was to go teach. I had a grand plan of maybe going to medical school, but I didn't want to do it anymore. And
Right.
then a good buddy of mine, we worked together when we were students. We were working in the registrar's office, handling student records, and he had come from his country to come train to become a teacher. So I said,
Okay.
"Yo, I'm about to graduate in a few months. I don't have any jobs lined up. Talk to me about this whole process." And he kind of gave me the lowdown, and I said, let me just give it a shot. I never thought I was ever going to be,
Oh,
a school
wow.
teacher. Never was it in my, whatever. So right after finishing school, I had to apply for my work authorization. As a foreign student, you have to have, the documentation to be able
Right.
to work in an area that's related to your study. And so I filed for my work authorization, and I set up a date when I could start, and I went to the school and I said, "Hey, can you guys put me? I would love to start as a substitute teacher." And they said,
Right.
"Sure, we'll have you. What day can you start?" I say, "On this date I can start." They called me a day before. They called me a week before, and I was like, I can't legally start. It's gonna ruin my paperwork." They were like, "All right." And on the day that I really could start, they gave me a phone call, said, "We need you in this classroom, this school building. Go."
Oh my
No
gosh. Wow.
experience, nothing, never
Just
been in
threw
an
you to the
American school
wolves.
before. I went to high school in a military school in West Africa. So I'm in almost culture shock. So I just
Oh
go
my
there and I just sit
gosh.
in the classroom and I just kind of give the instructions and just sit there quietly. All of the students, they kind of just followed. They didn't give any trouble. And I was just studying the environment, and I said to myself, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I can actually do this." And then I kept subbing and subbing and subbing, and then one of the schools said, "Hey, we need a teacher to finish out the school year with these students after spring break." And their class was in sciences, which was what my degree was in. And I was like, "Sure, I'll be happy to do that." So I did that for a while, and that was nice too. It gave me a steady income stream. I didn't have to fly to all different buildings. I went to the same building, went to the same place. I like routine, so
Nice.
that was
Yep.
actually nice as well too. And I just enjoyed the entire process. And then they came and said, "Hey, you need to go get certified." I said, "Sure, I'll go get certified." And then they had an interview and said, "We're going to give you a position here."
Wow.
And that's how I started teaching. My first year, I did hate it too, though. It's different when you're a substitute teacher, and it's different when you're a teacher. Two different worlds.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And
Oh, yeah.
so I was already doing that. Then I stopped teaching. I moved to another part of the country. My wife and then we moved back, and I actually reapplied to the same place, and they took me again.
What?
Yeah, because they were like, "You're coming back, sure." So
Like
they had me
lightning
come back.
struck twice.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I went back there, and that's when I started. That's when I started exploring what I would do, because when I moved to another part of the country, I was working for a big company, and they basically laid us off. We were contractors, but they took the contract and they shipped it to another company. And that
Oh,
kind of gave me kind of a reality check, like, yo, a lot of these corporations, will do what's more profitable for them. I need to
oh,
hedge
definitely.
myself. And so that's when I started looking into what I would do as my side hustle, in a sense. That's when the YouTube thing kind of was like, okay, let me just convince myself that this could help me in some job application. Maybe that will help me, be a little bit more motivated in doing it. It turns out I was enjoying the process. It was hard. My gosh, I would grind on YouTube. I would make my videos. I'd go to bed at like, 2 a.m. in the morning, get up, go to work, teach my heart out, come back, um, and then back on the
Dang.
grind again.
Yeah.
I really missed a
Not to mention,
lot.
not to mention playing the game, and then you have
Yeah,
to cover the game,
I enjoyed
and
it.
then
I guess that's the only reason I was able to just cut through
right,
and not
and
even
just
feel
keep
the
going.
stress. I enjoyed the division so much. There was not a game that I was willing to play and spend time working on and spend my, just curating together. The division really did open up a new segment of gaming, in my head. And so that's kind of how all of this stuff blended together. Me still doing my regular 9 to 5. I love it. Honestly, I think it'll be very hard for me to go as a full time entrepreneur, not
Right.
necessarily because I don't want to, but because it's very hard for me to think about what it will be like not actually doing that. I'll have to find a way, an outlet to still be able to work with people and still do that. That's the main. It's just working with people. That's what it is. So I have to find a way to do that, and kind of tie it into my whole entrepreneurship journey. And I think that's what I'm still looking for, before I finally just say, all right, it's time to go. It's time to take that deep dive and
Right.
go from there.
Now, um, okay, I'm gonna try to, I guess, give you some information about me and try to show how we both came to the same starting line, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We both had completely different paths, but we somehow both ended up on the same game, doing the same content and following the same franchise. Now, it's seeming more and more that uh, all these informational and discussion based videos, um, they kind of stretch from that teacher part of you, that you know you're always wanting to get people to think about something in a different way, whether it be maybe you should think about this build in a different way, maybe you should think about PvP in a different way, maybe you should, whatever it is, you're getting the, I guess, your reps in from school, from teaching, your everyday job. And
Most
I
likely.
think when it comes to content creating, it's coming more second nature because it's so easy for you to just turn on a microphone and just do what you always do. The only
Yes.
difference is that you're capturing what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you're doing the same stuff day in, day out, just with a different audience.
Yeah.
And I think where that's comparable with my past is more military aspect, where I would be flying on an aircraft and I'd have to know these certain systems inside and out, certain flight controls inside and out, and not only know them so well, that I could, be evaluated on it. But for doing it for so long like I did, I actually became more of an instructor type, aimed towards more of an evaluator type. That way, not only do you know the subject, but you're able to convey the subject to others to where it piques their interest. And not only are you capable of doing that, you're capable of teaching them to a certain level of your own. That way, if they were evaluated like you were evaluated, they would be able to hopefully, have the same knowledge that you've given them. Now, I'm using that as the same type of energy that you've had your teacher experience with, where public speaking, interacting with different audiences of different demographics, conveying topics that might be uh, not the most liked, but you spin it in a way to get others to understand, to get them to appreciate what you're trying to do, even if they don't agree with you, kind of deal. And I get the same satisfaction that I did back in the military, teaching people certain things on the aircrafts I used to fly, as I do now, teaching people videos on this insanely in-depth game and franchise where there's so much story, so much just basic algebra. There's a lot of just basic algebra in this video game, and whether we like to point it out or not, a majority of the world does not like basic algebra, and it's aimed at individuals who have the comfortability of speaking, but also being able to just interact with strangers. I think a lot of people just don't really possess that gift just right off the bat. It's usually built into them over time. Like for you, it's been teaching over time. You've been building up the strength to where now I could sit there and listen to a 36-minute long video of you talking about survival. Just even though I know survival in and out, you still put it in a certain way that it has me hooked as a listener, as a fan of it, and it's just like, he's right about that. And then even sometimes if I disagree with you, I'll still go through the entire video. I'll probably learn 2 or 3 new things, and then I'll point out the one thing that maybe I might have known a little bit more in detail, or maybe that, I see something a different way that I'm trying to get you to see the perspective of.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really enjoyed it. So anyways, that's how we've kind of gotten into content creating. Now, as far as the Division game franchise, I've heard you say time and time again that there's no other games like it, and there really isn't. There's nothing out there that's like it. What I've been doing, the years building up to the Division and content creating, I was really big into Call of Duty, just because Call of Duty. Maybe it was just being in the military. Maybe it was just because I was on Xbox. But Call of Duty was, you couldn't escape it, and I drank that Kool-Aid, if you will, and I jumped right in. First-person shooters were a lot of fun for me. However, what I was noticing over the years is that as these games progress, their campaign or their story mode would shrink dramatically, to the point where it's way, way less about the story mode and it's all about the multiplayer, where I'm a fan of both and I always will be a fan of both. And I feel that you need a strong story, a strong campaign, if you will, first. That way you get fully immersed into that world and then you can worry about PvP. But as we've seen with Call of Duty, it's basically the same game year in, year out. It's just a different background, and their stories are getting shorter and shorter because they all know that their moneymaker is within the multiplayer and the microtransactions they can apply to that. So went from that to Destiny. Destiny, the first one, and I fell in love. In fact, if I had to choose a franchise, I'd probably choose Destiny, man.
Really?
Um, I was fully like the problem, and I'll explain it. I'm a lore guy. I love
Uh,
lore. I love the stories. I love puzzles. I love it kind of goes into that Arkham, the Batman Arkham series, where
mm-hmm.
it's a lot of story, it's a lot of background stories, it's a lot of puzzles, and it keeps your brain going, and I love it. And I think the more story, the more background, the better. And the first Destiny had so much background lore, it was ridiculous. All of the raids were amazing. I thought the first game was just a home run through and through. Now the second game, they really didn't focus on lore that much, if at all, and it really showed in the product. Their their first year or two of Destiny 2 was aimed more at making money than it was continuing the actual game.
Mm.
And until there was a lot of backlash, it stayed that way for a while. I think it wasn't until the Curse of Osiris DLC where Bungie actually had a lot of people protesting them and boycotting them because they were making certain game content um, unavailable unless you had bought the DLC. And it was making this pay to play mentality and less about enjoying the game, being immersed in the world, enjoying the lore. And I think that's at that point, I actually skipped something there. So I went from Destiny, and as Destiny was winding down, there were rumors about Destiny 2, but then The Division came out. Now, The Division was halted a few years, I believe, from their first E3. And I remember that first E3, I was actually in a different country deployed for the military, and we had all the crew members I was flying with. We had all watched the E3 together, and overwhelmingly, that Division trailer had everyone wanting to play the Division, and then it got delayed a couple years, so I was stuck in Destiny. Then at the time, my roommate told me that you remember that Division game we all watched and we were all ready for? Well, there's people playing it on Twitch. And I had never really watched YouTube or Twitch or anything before, and that kind of introduced me into that area as well while introducing me to the game. And obviously, I got hooked just like everyone else within the division. And it was really hard for me to put it down. I think I've got, well over 100 days played on both games now, and I've, I've loved every second of it. I think when the division was first dying down around 1.5, 1.6, where there was some pretty bad metas there. There was like a sticky bomb meta, there was like a seeker mine meta, and during those certain patches, I picked up Destiny 2 instead of the division. And then, like I told Epic Slayers, and like I just told you, Epic Slayers had released a video that said, why you should be playing the division now.
I
And
remember that
shortly
video.
after, shortly after that, you did your video, um, which was more 1.8. I think, yeah, his was 1.8 as well. And basically, I went from video to video to video, and all of a sudden I was like, all right, I'm back in the division. Let's go. Because it was just blatantly obvious that the division was about to hit something big, and it did. 1.8 was pretty big, and then that last year with all the shields and everything, it was a lot of fun too. But that got me back into the division, and then, like I said, meeting that guy in the underground, um, seeing how videos can be very informative and discussion based, like from yourself, it just made it easier for me to just go ahead and say, hey, I could talk into a video too. Let's just hit record. And then that was it. I started doing survival videos because at that time I think I was doing like a game of survival every day just because I really enjoyed it, and then it just blossomed from there. Um, but basically, 30 minutes later, um, that's how we both got to where we are. That's pretty cool that two completely different backgrounds, two completely different paths, and somehow it led us both to content creating on the same game franchise.
I know.
So yeah, it's nice. So moving more towards nowadays. So, like you said, knowing what you know now, if you had to do it all again, obviously you would. And I feel the exact same way. I
Mm-hmm.
know that content creating is very time
Consuming.
management oriented,
Yeah.
yes, and consuming. If you cannot manage your time and you cannot be productive, it's really not for you. That's why some people they'll make a video once a month, and other people will make 3 or 4 videos a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really that time management and just being able to stay productive and still do everything you need to do in real life. Because a lot of us I say a lot of us. It's actually the opposite. There's not a lot of us that have family, kids, wives, real grown-up bills, student debt,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of there's a lot of things that like me and yourself can relate to that others don't really have to, which kind of makes time management and being productive more key for us because we don't have certain luxuries that other people do within this industry because we all know that overwhelming majority of YouTubers, content creators, in just a whole are single, live by themselves, probably with some roommates. They could probably play 24 hours if they want. They could probably, make a video at 2 a.m. if they wanted to. They've got a lot of opportunity there where um, like myself, I normally don't play on nights and I normally don't play on weekends. So I kind of constrict my content creating and actually my game playing as a whole. I kind of put it into like a day job kind of atmosphere where if you are on during the day during the week, you'll probably catch me on 9 times out of 10. But if you're on at night or you're on during the weekend, you won't catch me at all because I'll be spending time with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's where the time management and just productivity overall and just balancing life as a whole seems seems more of a priority, I guess you could say, because in all honesty, it just seems like a balancing act. Like how much, because I'm in the same mindset you are, where it's how much can I balance on these spinning plates that I have on these sticks. How much can I balance on these plates without them falling? And you can actually you'd be very surprised on how much stuff you could actually put on those plates without it falling. And I think you're a clear example of someone who knows that very well because a lot of people they work, go home, and they're tired. They don't want to do anything else.
Mm.
And then other people they have aspirations or ambitions to constantly progress in one way or another, and that's how I kind of see life is steadily progressing. How can
Yes.
I how can I evolve as a father, as a person, as a husband, as a gamer? How can I evolve as a content creator? all these things. I constantly look at how I can progress, which even explains why I started this podcast. There's so much to do in life, and I think if you're okay with settling, it really puts a damper on the possibilities and opportunities you could have had. Where if you don't open that door up, you would have never known that there were 8 different streets you could have went down.
Mm.
But instead, you're stuck on that one-way road going to nowhere when, you could have had all the other opportunities. Maybe there was a shortcut you didn't know because you never took the jump. And that's where I am. I'm more of I guess I'm more of the type that always wants to see if I can better myself. If yesterday was a high score, today I want to beat that high score. And if I can't, I need to figure out why I can't beat that high score. And then maybe I can figure out a different way to end up doing it. Sorry for going on these long tangents there.
No.
But,
It's really interesting, man. I'm glad you got to share that.
Yeah, man. I like I said, being comfortable talking and just being able to have a conversation, it's pretty second nature. So where are we at? So now we're doing the division. Now, content creating then to content creating now. We can all look on a stocks piece of paper. We can all look at, Google Ads revenue and their worth. That YouTube, when it started, when we started, when I started and when you came back to YouTube, to now, is a staggering increase in users, view, ads, content, channels. It's grown so much that Alphabet, the company that owns Google, is now worth over $1 trillion because of how fast YouTube and Google Ads has grown over these past few years.
Man, that's crazy.
Now, it is the only company in the world that's worth over $1 trillion, and it's because of YouTube helped Google become that, I guess, powerful. So my question to you is, obviously, then to now, the viewers, the views, the channels, the amount of content, everything has changed. How do you think it's changed better, and how do you think it's changed worse off as just content creating? Because you've been doing this several years, but it's hard to ignore that the last 2.5 years have been the biggest 2.5 years of YouTube, just period.
It has. It really has. I have to say that when I first started, I was seeing a lot of accelerated growth. There was so in terms of growth, it was easier to grow before, but now it's easier to establish. It's weird because growth, people would think growth equaled establishing. Not really. You could have there are many channels that have a bunch of subs that don't have a core community. If you get what I mean.
I see what you're saying, where it's easy to get into this, but it's not easy to progress.
Exactly.
I guess.
Exactly. That's what I guess a better way to put it. So yes, you're right that there has been a staggering increase. Even so when I first started, I started at October. By April, I had 3,000 subs. That was my story. I think my accelerated growth. Yes, I started October of 2016. April the next year, I was already on 3,000 subs. There was a huge growth coming. But I decided that I needed at that time to change my vocation. I got a really cool job. I got an outlandish offer, and I took it. But after about a year, I decided to leave, and I came back to doing YouTube. Now, my channel was basically almost dead. Division 2 was not out then. And so I kind of had to start from the ground up again and dig again. And it took a while to kind of get some traction. But I do also remember by the time the Division 2 came out, there was that core community that came back and said, yo, it's been so long, you know, the way the algorithm works, you know. And so we started off the journey again. And there was that acceleration all the way from when I came back to YouTube after I'd left. I was at 4,000 views. I remember very well. And I remember trying all kinds of different things, covering all kinds of different games. And that's where I saw, oh, the landscape has really changed, you know. But with the Division coming back in and me still growing as a person too, I was able to kind of latch onto what I have right now, even though it was basically zombieing my way through tiredness.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of that. So yes, I'm really like fortunate more than anything, because my style is not like it's not the big, huge, clean, you know, style of presentation. And I do that on purpose, honestly. But I want something from my community. I want my community to be the dedicated community. Come rain, come sun, they are there because they know that they're actually dealing with the real person.
Right.
You know, when I first started GameDaddy, I was thinking, yeah, maybe this is going to be like some kind of IGN thing where people are going to come and present and all that stuff. But once I threw that idea out the window, I was like, this is now going to be basically me. So this is what they're going to get. They're going to get the guy that's making a video while trying to figure out when he's going to, you know, get the kids in bed. You know, they're going to get the guy that's just a second ago, before we started recording, I was helping my wife chop some veggies. She was like, hey, I'm going to make dinner. Can you help me chop these veggies? And I was like, sure. And then I lost track of time and I was like, oh my gosh, we're about to start the podcast. So I was in the kitchen, literally with my wireless headset, chopping up some cabbage and onions and stuff for her. But that's a content creator. I'm not really much separated from that. You know, if we say, okay, maybe the kids are brushing their teeth, I could be like, hey, I need like 15 minutes. I need to record a video on this topic real quick. And I think it's something important we need to talk about. Awesome. I'll dash in my office. I'll record the video and I'm out, because I have to live a dynamic life, because I am in a dynamic scenario and I enjoy it. And so that's one of the reasons that I've seen that YouTube has been able to help me still establish a core community regardless of my style, and people who actually do appreciate what I do. I could go the, you know, really formal route, write a script, all of that. I love to write. I mean, for crying out loud. But I feel like the Division is much better served if everyone in the community is served from that perspective, because I want my videos to feel like you're in a Discord chat with me or you're in a PlayStation chat with me.
Right.
You know,
as it should be.
Yeah, and that's what makes us really unique in this community, compared to maybe other communities as well. And so that's really important to me. The people that are here in the community are very important to me.
Yeah, couldn't have said that better, man. So, let's see. So we've talked about where you've came to be here. We've talked about being a community content creator from then to now. Now, what now that you're up over, 30,000 subscribers, 9 million views on one channel, what are you planning on doing with that? Are there other video series you thinking about doing? Is there other avenues you're thinking about taking? Are you gonna, do your own GameDaddy podcast? Like, what's next for you, man? What do you have? What's your aspirations for your channel?
Well, there are some, and I met a gentleman here from the Division, and we've been actually doing a collaborative series. He's a podcaster from back in the day. Fat Ninja DM is his, gamer tag, internet name. And I remember he approached me and said, you should do a podcast around the Division. And I said, well, I already kind of do that. But I do have a desire to continue doing my Batman and superhero games channel in the style of a co-presentation. Are you willing to come along on the ride? He said, oh my gosh, I am doing this, because he's been a podcaster for years and kind of stopped that over the years when podcasting kind of first started was what he did. So we jumped on that and we started doing something along the lines of this. And so that was kind of like a step 2 to start on my second channel. That was my first branching out, because I wanted to do I wanted to do something else on YouTube, and I didn't necessarily want to do it under the GameDaddy brand. I wanted to go out and hunt for another audience that had a similar, I would say, likes in how I view the superhero games. I like Batman games. I like the Arkham games. So I thought, well, there's a community out there that's going to love it. Now, sure, there are people in the GameDaddy space that would have loved it, no doubt. I mean, many of you have found yourself migrating over to this other channel too. So that's been fun, but I also wanted to do that and still kind of challenge myself, get a second channel and just dig down into YouTube with my tentacles as well, and see if I could also continue to, as I provide that value, establish and grow bigger without having to deal with the fluctuations that YouTube always has to take while I'm sitting there going, oh, there's no division content. What am I going to do? There's never a dull moment for me now, especially, having 2 channels and all that stuff. That keeps me very busy. We even do 1 video a week now. We were doing about 3 a week, and that got really hardcore. And so that's one side of my content creation that I still have for my audience. If they want to engage in that content, they can find themselves there. And then I'm also working on another project as well. And I mentioned this before. I actually do have a book that I did start. I finally published it, self-published a fantasy fiction book. And it was a very funny story because I started writing this book like 5 years prior. And gosh. I just always put it off. I got lost in the story. And then one day I got a trigger. Somebody drew something and I said, can you draw this? And they said yes, and they sketched it. And I said, from this sketch, I'm going to finish this book. So I finished the book in basically a few months. And it was a lot of fun. I was like, yeah, I'm going to just finish this. I don't care how rough it is. In fact, I was reading the book the other day and I saw some grammatical errors. And I was like, man, I edited this book and I paid editors and all that stuff. What in the world? But, there's no perfect book. I'll still have to go back and fine tune it. But I remember towards the last 3-4 chapters, I said something to myself, and I haven't revealed this outside of friend circles.
Oh man, exclusive.
He said exclusive. And I said, what would it look like if I wrote a book that had elements of what video games would enjoy or could enjoy? And I said, well, I don't know. Let me finish the book. Let me publish it. Let's see what goes on. And so I finished the book and I was like, man, this is done. So I talked about it with the community and, just kind of shared it with everybody. Because at that point, as I was about to finish the book, my video production kind of scaled down a little bit because I was just concentrating on it like crazy. And I was doing, I think, 2 videos a day. And at that point, I was doing 1 video a day. And I was like, oh, I'm not making enough videos. So I'm sorry. And everybody was like, yo, what are you talking about? We hear you every day. And I was like, well, I guess. And I finally finished it and I said, I think it's time for me to start exploring what it looks like to actually make a video game. And I think that is the next step that I want to take. So I'm in the learning process of developing my prototype for my own video game that's a spin-off from that story. And actually, that's what I've been working on. I don't know if you guys have noticed, there have been some lag days in my video production because this process is absolutely bone breaking. In fact, I had a meltdown about a week ago where I said, "Now I'm not doing this. It's too much." And then I picked it back up just a few days ago, and I said, "We're gonna do this." And I'm on this journey, which I'm logging the journey in, and I will share it with the GameDaddy community. I'm recording myself actually like sculpt and design,
what?
And yeah, it's I have. Cool. Yeah, I have like maybe 4 hours of like raw footage of my preliminary like designs and all that stuff. And nice. I can't show anything in public. If you want to see, I'll be happy to show you on Discord, no problem. But I can't show anything in public just yet because I don't want to show something so preliminary that if I end up scrapping the project, you know, it's all a bunch of like, crud. It wasn't really much to go off anyways. I would prefer that something much more concrete is in the public eye than anything else. So that is actually what I've been working on. Something funny yesterday, I was telling a buddy of mine that we're good friends. He's in the Army currently. I sent a picture to him. I said, it just took me an hour to put together a bridge. And the bridge already had all the components already pre-made. And it took me an hour to actually just put it all together. I was like, this is so hard and harrowing. I can't imagine how long it takes for these guys to make video games. So that has also affected my scope and my view on gaming. Every single video game that I've had sitting in my library, I find myself from time to time just scrolling through and saying, oh, I feel like an idiot for ever thinking this aspect of this game was never sufficient. If only I had known how much work went in to doing this. If only I had known how much work went into doing that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's actually a functionality. I sound like an idiot. I sound like I've never played video games in my life. I kid you not. I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and my character, I was running towards a rock, and as I ran to the rock, he just climbed it. I put down my controller and almost cried. Because that functionality is so difficult to execute. The fact that Ubisoft just have done it in like 10 games, and we've taken it for granted in the gaming scene, I just don't even know what to say. I just put my controller down and said, oh, you can climb. Well, yeah, it's an Assassin's Creed game. Duh. Yep. But I'm sitting here going, by the time I get to the point where I want to learn how to actually develop a climbing system, I know it's going to basically break me. But these companies have executed these things, maybe not flawlessly, but good enough for years.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, as gamers, you know, we have high tastes, but many of us haven't necessarily put ourselves through part of the gruesome exploration of what it takes. And I really feel myself now stepping into the shoes of the developer and going, yeah, there has to be a rethink of how we address and how we approach video games. And we as the content creators, because we constantly put ourselves through challenges, you know, we're going to eventually see how much we're going to be a lot more lenient towards development teams. Now, we're not going to give them a pass for making bad games or money grabs, you know, because there are other development teams that actually just set the bar high every time they touch a game. But at least if we see a team genuinely trying, we ought to give them the high five that they deserve, rather than just smack them on the face and, you know, do that, because they put in a lot of work. They put in a lot of work in that doing. So that's actually the next step. I'll be making Division videos, hopefully, and then just working on this prototype just so that my audience can just see what it is. And I'm doing it for me. This is one of those things where I'm just doing it because I want to do it. And so that's what I've been working on. I'm very tired. My sleep is trash now. I thought beginning of GameDaddy was hardcore. That was nothing. That was nothing. Now,
are you gonna build? Are you gonna build on to that book? Are you going to end up making it a series?
Yes.
What are you?
Yes,
yeah?
I
Nice.
I do intend. In fact, I'm halfway through the sequel. I was halfway through the sequel before the whole COVID thing hit, and I put it on pause. My goal is to write 12 chapters. It's supposed to be a very quick read for people who are fast at reading, and also not overwhelming for people who just usually are not big readers. But if they pick up my book, I don't want them to be overwhelmed by the size of the book. Always thought about, if I ever wrote a book, it needs to be able to fit in your back pocket.
That's a really good. Yeah,
that's kind of always
really
been my idea. So when I finished the book, I was 12 or 13 chapters in, and I said, that's a good number So for the second manuscript, I was on chapter 6 when the whole COVID thing hit, and I stopped. And I'm glad that I stopped, because now that I'm actually trying to make a game off of it, I have more freedom to rewrite aspects that I want to be built within the lore, or I could just make the game just go its own way, but will still be set in the world. So it's something that I never really envisioned, but I'm happy that there's some originality to all of this. You know,
I like how you've done it the opposite way, where you're already a book in, you're nearly halfway done with the second one, and now you're starting on prototypes with certain aspects to hopefully one day build your own video game.
mm-hmm.
That's insanely awesome. That's probably the coolest thing I've heard so far.
Yeah, I was trying to bury it inside of the podcast so that many people.
Oh my god!
It's one of those things where you have to be really secretive. I'm not going to take credit. I also want to credit Fat Ninja, because one of the reasons I mentioned him was I was looking at my second YouTube channel going, if I ever go on this project, I'm not going to be able to handle 2 YouTube channels, because this is something I've been thinking of for a long time. I'd been getting tutorials and keeping them to the side. But once Mr. Fat Ninja came into the picture, that really did free me up enough to go into the learning phase.
Oh, okay. Because
yes.
So he's controlling that channel for you, or
he's
moderating the channel?
He's moderating. He's and I just said, yo, if you want to do this, you're taking ownership partially of this channel, and this is what it would entail on your part. He said, throw everything to me. Anything you want to teach me, just teach me. I just want to be along for the ride. I enjoy talking to gamers. I love doing this, and that's what I want to do. And he's been a very huge source of encouragement more than anything else. He's the one who said, if we only have to make 1 video a week on this other channel, let's do it. Because at the end of the day, if this works out, it's going to be a big, huge thing that will serve the gaming community, much more than just say, making a bunch of videos every week and all of that stuff. It's more tangible,
exactly.
Having a video game in their hands, or having a prototype or a demo in their hands, or whatever it is. And so he's been a lot, there as well. There's also another content creator too that I will give credit, but I also want to keep it a secret, because I have a friend circle that's really been very encouraging through all of this. And I got my wife, who's just a saint, who thinks I can pick a mountain up by my hands if I wanted to. So she's like, yeah, if you think that's something you're convinced you want to do, why not try it? And I remember, yeah.
Let's be real, man. Hold on. Let's be real. So you've moved here from a completely different country.
Mm-hmm.
You've established a teaching residency, basically, where you've been a teacher for several years.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a content creator for several years, different channels. You're an author. You're developing the prototypes for a future video game. And the list just keeps on going. So obviously I don't want it to sound weird, but if I was your wife, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, dude, whatever you want to do it. Obviously you can do it. Look at you now. You've done so much. You've got a resume that not 2 people would normally have, and you have it just on yourself. There's so many people out there that don't have half of the credentials you do, and it's amazing, and you keep going. And that's that whole balancing act, is where it's like, well, if I could balance this plate, maybe I could get a bigger plate.
Yeah.
And then I could balance more.
What's funny, Mr. Vondoom? Whenever they say there's no content in the division, it always makes me happy.
I laugh. I laugh every time.
It always makes me happy, because I'm like, oh, thank God I could go do a new project. In fact, when they delayed Cyberpunk to December, I knew it was a sign from God to actually kick this prototype off, because I knew once Cyberpunk came out, where are we going to find the time?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I was like, I need to start learning. I need to pack in as much knowledge so that I can kick this down the hill. And I was like, well, I started I started beginning of October. I was like, I'm going to start doing this before Cyberpunk comes out. And then, oh my gosh, Cyberpunk's going to come out. Assassin's Creed's going to come out. There's going to be Division stuff for Season 4. I want to cover the content. That's my primary audience. I want to serve the community. And so they said, oh, Cyberpunk has been delayed. I said, oh, this has got to be a supernatural delay. I don't care. I'm going to jump in on this. So I started going back on my tutorials. I started watching them. I'm still watching tutorials every day. That's the way you do it, man. You just learn and say, how do I change this color to blue? Go find out any way you can do it till that color changes to blue, or put it aside, and maybe the algorithm will be happy with you. The YouTube algorithm, my YouTube algorithm has changed. Like if I open my my YouTube page, you're gonna be like, what in the world are you watching? It is all kinds of technical stuff surrounding game development, specifically with Unreal Engine 4. And
nice.
It's a wonderful resource that's out there, but the journey is hard. I haven't seen a lot of people that have done this, so I have a 99.9% chance of failing, but I love the fact that I only have 0.1 or less than 0.1 chance of succeeding. That's all I need. I just need just that slight statistical
hope.
chance, and that's all. I think that's all you need. The rest of it depends on you. And if you fail, well, good. You now know exactly what not to do.
Right, and that goes. I think that goes without saying. That should be a part of everyone's day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're negotiating for a business and you ask for a number, and the other industry is saying, well, we've never dealt with a number that high before. It doesn't mean no. It just means they haven't done it yet, which means there's hope. There's that 0.1% chance. Yeah, they'll completely become partners with you, and you can make this novel, and we can make it a whole book series, and yeah, we'll make you a video game. But it's the fact that you started that, you put your foot forward in that direction, you made hope happen. You basically created your own hope when it comes to this world that you're basically making from your head. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
really cool.
Appreciate it.
What dang, that was a rabbit hole I didn't think we'd go down. So game developer, that'd be sick, man. Maybe I can maybe I can be an audience member in one of your honorary bachelor's degree you're gonna get from like MIT or something.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
I'll give you an honorable degree, and I'll come show up and be like, I knew him when he was a content creator.
Oh my god!
Look at him
funny.
now.
But I have to say though, I am looking for seasoned gamers to start preliminary testing on concepts and all that stuff. So
explain that. How would that go?
Okay, so
preliminary testings on concepts. What are you saying here? Just spitballing ideas?
No.
What do you mean?
So when they tell you, if you're gonna make a video game prototype, you have to put it in the hands of gamers as quickly as possible.
Oh, of course.
And that way, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So I've been following a few indie developers that have solo dev'd their games, because those are the only people that will have enough credence for me to follow. And they're also fathers, and they did it by themselves. And they had very realistic expectations and realistic patterns that if anybody would follow with enough determination, they can also do that. And so one of the first things that many people would say is you need to get your game into the hands of testers as early as possible. So I would love to have a lot more people that are inside of my gaming extended family circle start taking a look at the prototype once it's ready. Well,
Oh wow.
the initial, like the very first scratch, like the very just nick of it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to do anything overly ambitious. No, I'm literally going to make a different version of one of my favorite games. I'm not. That's what they'll tell you. Make a game that's established and just take away from it. You know what I mean? So you don't go
Yeah.
overwhelm yourself because there's too much that goes into it. It's ridiculous how much
It's
goes into it.
I think it's way easier to start with, a template, whether it be a good or bad one, than it is to start from scratch.
Yes,
Definitely.
very much so.
Especially in like a programming aspect. It's really, it's dramatically easier to go from taking someone else's code and then either adding or subtracting from it than it is to just sit there and be like, all right, I want you to do this, start from scratch, do it now. And it's like, what?
Now,
Oh,
here's the
man.
beauty, though, of, in today's world, you don't necessarily have to worry about a lot of that. Once you
Right.
create a process and a flow, there are resources, both paid and free, that can get you to where you need to go. And they won't cost you anything other than maybe in some cases a fee up front or royalties at the end. Like Unreal Engine 4 is free. You can download it and start messing with it. Anybody can. It's free. The whole thing, it's been free for years too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's just more about just the information. And their only stipulation is your budget and your sales. Once they reach a certain threshold, then you give them royalties for everything above that threshold. In fact, what really made Unreal Engine just the right choice and that's what I'm working with. There's Unity as well. I was gonna go with Unity, but what made Unreal Engine just the obvious choice was the fact that when they did when the PS5 and all this stuff were being advertised, the summer when everybody was still like, oh, we're gonna get the PS5. They did the Unreal Engine 4 presentation. Have you seen that? Unreal Engine 5 presentation, sorry. Did you see it?
I don't believe I have.
They used this wonderful demo that they made that looked like just this high-end game. I mean, game probably is not going to be, it's not a game. But they used it to show the power of the engine, and then they made one announcement at the end before, if your sales were at like, I can't remember, $100,000 or so, then you started paying royalties to Epic Games. But after the end of that presentation, they said from now henceforth, they were going to increase that. So your first $1 million stays with you before you start giving before you start paying any royalties for using the tool.
Well, you also have to know that the difference between Epic then and now is that they are like one of the top like companies out there now, especially.
Yes.
Fortnite has established them.
The 10-year-olds have basically changed our lives. That's basically what it is.
They've changed everything. Yes, and that's kind of the same logic that I was explaining to
with your podcast as well too. When you were talking about your podcast, what you're doing here, I was like, yes, this is definitely the model that I would be happy to be on that train. You just wanting to serve and give value, and that's pretty much what they're doing. They're just giving value and just wanting people to have because the process is already difficult, so they just want to ease that process on the long run.
Exactly. So there's so many eyes on YouTube, Twitch, whatever, that it's really hard to pinpoint where those eyes should go. So if I can sit down with all these individuals that some people might not even know, they'll be like, "Who is GameDaddy? That sounds like a naughty, whatever." And
it does, which is weird.
and then you'll have people that are like, "Man, he's very well spoken. I've never heard of this guy." And then it interacts, and like you said, with your YouTube algorithm, it only takes a few videos to change someone's page completely.
True.
You can go from watching Call of Duty games to watching Division 2 games in one day just by clicking on a couple channels.
Yes.
And I think doing things like this, it definitely opens up those avenues for people to take. Like I said, with the whole closed door mentality, well, we're opening the door and we're giving you, X number of avenues you could take. This episode, you can go down the GameDaddy avenue and go check out all of his old content. You can go down the GameDaddy's other channel where he's talking about Batman. You can go look up, the novel. You can, go to the Discord and try to get some of those cool, prototype pics. I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cool, doorways this opens up for people. And I just knowing other people within the industry, it's it's sad to see some of these channels not progress the way they should. Like you were saying, it's easy to jump in the swimming pool, but it's not easy to stay afloat. Like
Yes.
a lot of people can jump in, but not a lot of people can swim in place for 2 years. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And it this helps at least establish a smaller swimming pool, I guess you could say, where it's not as deep, where people can hopefully get more, get more. I don't know, just more exposure, just overall, because obviously some people won't like my take on things, and a lot of people might love your take on things, and then vice versa. Maybe it's, hey, we love, your informative videos, he does informative videos, maybe we'll try that out, or vice versa. What this does is it helps just give that option out there to just build everybody up, because there's no sense of this, I'm in my own YouTube corner. No one can touch me like this, like weird golem looking creature from Lord of the Rings, where it's my precious, my channel, my precious. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be more of an opportunity, more of a networking tool to just get more opportunities out there. You would never know that certain people would be that friendly. Like, for example, I had never talked to Epic Slayers before ever, and when I first explained to him what was going on, um, not only did he think it was an amazing idea, he wanted to be the first episode. And it was
Nice.
like, wow. It was like out of everyone, like he was the first one to respond. We actually recorded the episode the next day. So I had thought about the podcast. I didn't come up with a name or a logo yet, and he was already wanting to do an episode. And I just think that if you don't, it's always better to ask for what's the saying? It's always better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to sit there and wait for somebody to come up with the idea to sit down and talk with me. I feel like I should be able to reach out and be like, hey, you wanna sit down and have a chit chat? Maybe we can you know help the community understand who you are as a person, because a lot of these I always hated the term "this is my community." I've always hated that. It's not your own separate community. I think that it's a much bigger picture. It's not micro, it's macro. It's a certain demographic. It's not, hey, this is us in our corner. It's, hey, this is us in our house. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that live in this house. We should probably get along with the people that live in our house, because um, I'm really trying to reach out to more division based content creators and streamers, because there's this sense of commonality where we all understand, at least a certain point, that we all enjoy the same game.
Mm.
And whether that be our only common trait, so be it. maybe that's just the starting point. Hey, you like Division, I like Division. Do you like this? Hell yeah, I like this. Well, do you like to talk? Fuck yeah, I like to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just keeps going from there. And there's so many friendships, there's so many just overall community building that needs to be done just within this one gaming franchise. I've never seen a gaming community so dispersed and separated. Even Call of Duty's not that bad. It's really really bad because from the start of being a content creator, what got me marketing, I did everything free. I did everything by myself, so all my growth is organic. I don't want to ever mess with that because once you start throwing things into the algorithm that's not organic, it's going to mess up your outcome. So I've always been a firm believer of organic growth and free marketing. And free marketing is essentially social media. You
Mm-hmm.
can you can market yourself and promote yourself on any social media platform. And where I really got into it at first, a couple years back, was Facebook. And believe it or not, there's over 100 groups of division-based groups on Facebook right now, and that's just in America. There's French groups, there's Spanish groups, there's Mexico groups. There's groups from all different countries, and I think in total there's over 200 groups just on Facebook, and these are all separate groups of people. And the thing that I noticed was I would join. I basically sat down and was like, "Hey, I need to promote these videos because I wanted to hit that threshold where I could become a content creator." And you become that partner. You had to hit that threshold. I believe it was like 1,000 subs and like 60,000. Yeah, exactly, something like that. And I made it my goal to get that done within 100 days. And I think I became a YouTube partner like 92 days. And what really helped me do that and what achieved that goal for me is marketing on Facebook. And the funny thing is I don't even touch Facebook anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of sad because I clearly was getting a lot of organic growth from these Facebook groups. But that's the good side of it. The bad side of it is how toxic, uh how many keyboard warriors are on Facebook, and even more so, just revolving around the division. It just seemed the division community was by far the most toxic, but yet the most dedicated. Um, like I said, I really enjoyed Destiny and Destiny 2 and that whole franchise. And I've got a lot of friends in that community, and it can be toxic every once in a while, but nothing to the to to this. Just an example. There was a group posting, and for this reason and many more, I don't get on Facebook anymore. There was this one posting where this dude had beef with another guy. They were, I guess, 1v1ing in the dark zone, and um, the guy was telling everyone he won, and the other guy didn't like that. So that dude looked up his personal information, his banking documents, and his like all this other stuff, and posted it to that Facebook group. And it just showed that, you know, there are keyboard warriors out there, but at the same time, there's also people that can hack your computer, that can pull up certain documents, that can really mess with you. And after seeing that a handful of times, I knew that that wasn't certain groups that I would like to promote anymore. But what I would say about Facebook is it was a great way to meet other content creators. I met Clint Flairwoo. Me and him started our channels pretty close to each other, within a month of each other. And it got to the point where we both hit the algorithm around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started commenting on each other's videos, became friends, added each other on Facebook, and it just went from there. I even tried doing a Division 2 podcast with him. We did a few episodes, but the time difference and the dedication you have to have
Yeah.
for something like that is a big thing, and it's hard for anyone to. I know for me personally, as a content creator, there's a lot of dedications and there's a lot of sacrifices I have to make to do what I do, and when I ask other people like yourself to get on a podcast episode with me or to make a video with me, it doesn't always come across like, hey, they might be stretched out more than you're stretched out, or they might not be able to dedicate that much time, you know, to do that because they have this, and this. And that's another thing that I like to put spotlight on in these podcasts is that each of us have a different, story. We all have different things. Like me and you, we're family people. We're both married. We both, do stuff outside of this, but the the drive is still there. We still feel what's the word? I mean, I guess satisfaction would be okay, but it's more of like a sense of fulfillment when you post something or you say a certain discussion and then you get 100 people that are like, hey, you're right, I didn't think about that. Or you get 1,000 people that are like, how dare you say that, who the hell. And then it there's a sense of fulfillment where it's like i can I can get these people to start this discussion, and if I didn't say anything, they wouldn't have ever had this discussion. Where it's kind of like it sounds really desperate if you say sense of worth. It's not really that. It's more of like
It's just, it's just. I
you're
think.
enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, I think you've just, you've finally reached a point where you've kind of established your voice in the community. Not saying you speak for everybody. No, you speak for yourself, but
Right.
you engage and you tell people your thoughts and find out that there are like-minded people who share your thoughts, and then there are people who disagree with your thoughts as well and are also willing to engage your thoughts and say, this is where I differ from your thoughts, but I'm glad that you actually even did take the time to speak about these issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's a feeling that, okay, very good. I'm glad that I'm not just talking into a vacuum. There are people listening and there are people that are actually responding. That's one of the good things about doing YouTube and staying in a dedicated community, because a lot of people that are going to be in the community are knowledgeable as well.
Right.
They're not noobs. They're not like, passing by. They're not passers-by. We're just like, what's going on this video? Click. There are people who have similar experiences who are playing the exact same game, and I think that's where the fun is.
This is actually where I explained this to GC Rock the other day on an episode of this, and it actually just fell into this conversation as well, where our community, what makes it so amazing is that a majority of us are within the same age bracket.
Mm-hmm.
A majority of us are within, I would even go as far as saying, similar IQs. And this type of game is so complex, and it has so many different algorithms and equations you have to go through, to where right now, the way I explained it to GC Rock is right now everyone's hooked on Minecraft and Fortnite, probably Roblox. All these games, like you said earlier, are um, are aimed at a younger audience.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to get everyone to understand is that, like I told you earlier, the way YouTube has progressed just in the last 2 years, not even total, but just the last 2 years comparably, it's so much more, but you have to look at the audience. How is this so much more? Well, Fortnite came out 2 years ago.
Mm.
Fortnite is obviously one of the top games to ever come out ever, and it has the biggest fan base. Minecraft might be bigger, but it's pretty close to Minecraft.
Mm.
And obviously, they spawned with what is now the world's richest the world's richest streamer and content creator, Ninja. He's way way more well off than any other streamer or content creator in comparison. And that was due to Fortnite. But you have to realize that all of this, and you have to factor in last year when they did that change to YouTube settings where children under the age of 13 can't watch certain videos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this all goes off of the same premise that the audience that has built YouTube to this monument that it is now are all young gamers, all
Mm-hmm.
of them. And if they're not young gamers, they are people in school. All schools right now, including my kids' school, they all reference YouTube within their remote learning syllabus. And
Mm-hmm.
same with college. Before Corona was going off, I was going to the local university, and a lot of the resources we would get, whether it be for programming or cybersecurity, they would give us references from YouTube. So what we're doing here is we are watching this wave come about. And right now this wave is about from the ages 7 to, I would probably say, 15. That's where the biggest wave is in YouTube. And it kind of goes up a little bit to 18 to 20s, but the majority, the gaming industry, Fortnite, Minecraft, Among Us, a lot of these aim towards younger audience. And our community, the Division community, um, is such a complex game where these uh, fans of these other games might not quite grasp yet.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've been trying to get people to understand is we're at this age bracket. I'm in my 30s. A lot of people I talk to are in their 30s. A lot of the people I play the game with are between 30s to 50s. And it's a common thing that the demographic that plays the Division is anywhere between the ages of 20 to maybe 60. Because there's a lot of older people that like
Not
this
maybe, definitely
game. Yeah, it
60.
definitely, yeah. And that is our sweet spot right now. Now, the problem with that is the ages under 20 are 99% more likely to play other games.
Mm-hmm.
However, as this is ticking along, it is only going to get better for people like us because you play like we both enjoy the Batman Arkham series games.
Mm-hmm.
Those are aimed towards teenagers, young adults.
Mm-hmm.
Where these Fortnite, Minecraft players are going to eventually grow into. Same with Mortal Kombat. Oh, you're too young for this right now, go play that. But eventually they will be old enough, and then Mortal Kombat's going to get a boost as well. And that goes with Tom Clancy games. Because as these kids are getting older, they're going to start realizing, oh, that over-the-back camera angle is very similar in Fortnite than it is in the Division. And, oh, wow, the reticles and certain guns, they look pretty similar Oh,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we could try this out. Oh, wow, New York. This looks real. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing here as a like a analytics standpoint is that this big huge wave of audience is going to shift to the older audience, which for us, I mean, like it or not, man, we've hit this age to where we're going to get older, but we're still going to like the same games, if
Yep.
you know what I mean.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, because we're not. I remember as a kid, obviously Mario, Zelda, this and that. But now that we're, adults, it's really hard to like sway us into, a certain gaming genre.
Yes.
And with that being said, our gaming genre is aimed towards people like us. And that's where, for certain individuals, it's really easy to make content with this and people relate than it is others. And I think um, it's more of a comfortable feeling type of deal. Like, if I'm a middle-aged man playing the Division and I look up YouTube, I don't want to listen to a teenager who's probably popping acne off of his back, living at his mom's house. I don't really want to listen to him, explain the video game. I'd probably want to listen to GameDaddy because GameDaddy sounds very intelligent and he sounds like he's more in my age range, I guess you could say.
Yes.
Where where that makes it very easy because now the demographic is looking for people that are kind of like them that can explain it in a way that they can understand.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with a lot of these other content creators is that it's saturated the market to where some people feel like they have to listen to so and so because of X number of subs or whatever, but um, they might not explain it to a you know detail oriented way like you would, where it's like very informative with background, with history, with future knowledge, with this and that, and you're comparing different things and you're adding on to this overall topic to not only get the person to understand this and that, but also understand everything that's around it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of younger content creators that are just A to B. Hey, do this, you're done. Where I'll get uh I'll get messages, or I mean I don't anymore. But back in the day I would get messages about like my vendor reset videos. Because in the division, every Friday it was vendor reset, and there were like 20 plus different vendors in the Division One. There
Mm-hmm.
were all the Dark Sun vendors, and then all the open world vendors. It was a lot. Well, what I was getting mixed feedback from those videos because my videos would end up being 20, 25 minutes long, where other people they would just time skip it and cut it so short that it would be 4 or 5 minutes long. And the question that would pop up is, why can't you do videos like this person? This person does it in this amount of time. Why can't you do that? Why do I need to sit here and listen to you do this for twice as long when I could get that information over here? And then once you compare the apples and oranges, you see that the other person would be like, hey, I'm at this location, buy this. Hey, I'm at this location, buy this. And they would just do that nonstop, making it really fast and easy, which to a certain demographic, that would be just fine. But in my case, my thought was, well, I don't want to just say, go to this dark zone and buy this. I want to tell you why you need to buy that. I need to tell you what kind of build you could probably make with that.
Mm.
Maybe you don't understand why I'm saying buy this item because normally you wouldn't use this item. But if I explain to you, hey, if you put this together with Predator's Mark and Banshee, you'll be killing everyone in the game. And then they're like, oh, well, I like Banshee and Predators. Hell yeah, let's do it. And there's just a lot of misinformation or lack thereof when you just want to get to the nitty gritty. And that's where a lot of the channels butt heads is their delivery. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to build everyone's knowledge, build the community. We're all trying to build his channels, all that. But I think that in a game that's this complex, if you don't explain X, Y, and Z, and you only explain X, next time that viewer might not click on your video because they had to learn from someone else what they actually need to know. Or, something like that. I know it's kind of a weird turn of topic, but that's just where I was going with that. I'm probably just talking nonsense by
now. You're a Division content creator at heart. There's no conversation you're gonna have that's probably not gonna bring Division up. Even this Thanksgiving, I foresee you saying, in the Division we usually and everybody yells at you, and then you realize, okay, this is not the Division audience. I can't really use these analogies. So that's normal. That's not uncommon for us to speak in those terms. When we're doing that, I have to find, like I said, I have two channels that have two slightly different audiences. Even if I have some overlap, there are people that show up on Video Game Fight School dedicatedly that I've never seen on GameDaddy, and they probably will never show up there because that's not their cup of tea. Division is not their cup of tea. And, I have to, when I make a Division style reference, I have to kind of do a quick backtrack and provide a little bit more context so that there's, okay, it's relatable to them, if you get what I mean. So yes, I definitely feel you in that sense.
Let's see. So we've done all that. Obviously, we keep going around this, this bush. We keep trimming down this bush that is the Division, and we haven't yet actually gone into it. So I guess, it's been long enough. We can finally talk about the content in which we create. So the Division, man. What? Oh man, how do I ask that? All right, so I'll tell you mine, and then I'll ask the question. So my outlook on the Division 2 is, I think I had hit like 2,000 or 3,000 subs right as the Division 2 was about to launch. And that's when the private beta came out, because everyone that bought, I think it was like the Ultimate Edition, got the private beta. And then at this point, I was so hyped, because the Division, there's a lot of people, and this is why I said I laugh when people say there's no content. Because for you, when you hear there's no content, that means you can finally relax on a certain topic and then focus on something else. When I hear there's no content, I purposely make content to prove to others there is content. Because there is so much that is not covered in this video game, and people just go and overlook it all of the time. And it could be as simple as at the end of year one, people said, there's no content. Why are you even covering this game? And then I started doing Thieves Den videos every single day. And then everyone's like, oh, there is content. Oh, man, I could buy the apartment? What? And then they're learning more stuff. And it's like, yeah, there is content. You got to look for it. And then when they took out the Thieves Den, then they added in daily targeted loot. And all of a sudden, you just replace Thieves Den video with targeted loot video. And now you have daily content all over again. Or you've got your discussion videos. I could take any part of this video game and make a discussion video on it. I mean, we could sit here and talk about clans. I think that they messed up certain aspects of clans. Like, why aren't there more clan levels? I think my clan hit max clan level like day 4, and the game's been out over, what, 2 years?
Wow.
No, not 2 years. It's been out nearly 2 years. And like, what's the point of clan levels? We maxed out, like, for me, what I did is I took everyone from YouTube, everyone from all those Facebook groups, and I made my clan day 1 of the Division 2. We were already max 50. And what I've learned is that the clan levels, there's no sense of that crap. Another thing is the clan tag. You can have any clan tag you want, and it can be a duplicate of any other clan tag. Everyone could have DOD as the clan tag in all different clans. I think that is a horrible development issue, where even things like Call of Duty, if I have capital D, lowercase o, capital D, no one else should be able to do that. And in fact, the way they do it in Call of Duty is if you're DOD, no one else in the entire game can have DOD. You'd have to be like D0D. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where in Division 2, everybody can be DOD, and every single clan can be different, and no one would be able to tell until they actually inspect that character, and they're like, oh, but your clan says the flying unicorns. Why are you DOD? And then it's like, well, we like DOD.
This man
And
just said the flying unicorns DOD,
hey, man,
bro.
I'm just saying, there's, it could be anything. It could be, we are the Skull Crushers, but why are you DOT? That doesn't make any sense. And I found that out after 2 weeks of this game being out, that there was my clan, the Disciples of Doom, and then there was another clan, DOD, on Xbox called Dads of Division, which, shout out to that clan.
I have a Dads of Division on
name.
PC, actually.
Yeah. And I think it's awesome. But their clan tag looks exactly like my clan tag. So if I'm playing Conflict and I see another DOD member pop up, I'm like, oh, who's that? And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's probably just another fucking clan that has DOD, because this game doesn't know how to make different clans. And I'm sorry to go on a little tangent like that, but
cool.
that's just an example that I can, you can make content out of anything. That was me just making content out of clans. Like, there's certain aspects of this game that certain people overlook or don't care to look at under a microscope, where there's certain things hidden or there's certain things lacking within this game that need to be pointed out. Like, for example, hardcore. Why is it that I have, and I currently am on, my hardcore character, I am at watch level 28, level 40, I've done everything in the game, I'm just trying to get my watch level up now. Why is it that I have not gotten a single patch, a single commendation, a single apparel, a single reward? I haven't gotten anything since level 30, beating Tidal Basin. That was the last time they had anything connected to hardcore mode. So basically, once you beat World Tier 5 and you got your gear score 500, they technically stopped hardcore mode. But they give you Warlords of New York, they give you the Summit. You can play basically all of the content on hardcore. You can even progress up to level 40, do your watch levels. I've seen people on Twitter who are on their hardcore characters watch level like 1,000. And that's more than on my normal character. And there's no rewards at all. There's nothing linked to hardcore. In fact, if you go and make a hardcore character right now, it still tells you it's in the beta mode.
Because hardcore was a beta project. And I made a video actually critiquing it because that's all it was. They said we just had a team that was excited about this idea. and we decided that, since it wasn't taking any resources, we should just have them go ahead and do it. And I said, why? Why do a beta project rather than do a realistic project that like something that we needed, which was more content? So I think hardcore should have been, my imagination of hardcore should have been this never-ending cycle where you create a character to go into the world, and the world is constantly receiving changes that the regular open world doesn't get.
Ooh.
It was a missed opportunity by Massive, where the Black Tusk are constantly sabotaging everything you do, not just taking control points. No, I'm talking base of operations, taking missions, and the missions change, and you don't know what has happened over in your map is not yours anymore. You don't know what's going on when you log into your hardcore character. You could just be like a hardcore, thing goes on, shade level agents that are rogues, and you find yourself that as an agent, another regular agent can like go rogue on you. It's a very I thought, man, this is definitely the idea. Why make a beta out of something that you're not going to harness? But I just thought I was gonna sound like a whiny baby if I kept on pushing that.
And to add to that, this is a copy and paste of, I was told, Nightmare Mode from Wildlands, I guess, or Ghost Recon. Something like that, where this just came out on a different title. And all of these developers from these Tom Clancy games that are under the same umbrella of Ubisoft and Massive and all that, they communicate with each other. The game mode, not conflict, but Team Elimination. Team Elimination was introduced, and it was a Ghost Recon Breakpoint PvP mode that they copy and paste and just put in the Division 2. It's the exact same thing. And what a lot of people were noticing is they were calling this Nightmare Mode. I guess that's what hardcore mode is on one of those Ghost Recon games. And it was the exact same thing that was introduced just a little bit before hardcore mode was. So a lot of these things that have been added to this game that have been not doing as well, or not approved by the community as well, seem to not have been original Division projects. And hardcore mode was one of those, where day one someone else was like, well, this is just a copy and paste of this game mode, it's not going to go anywhere. And it really didn't go anywhere, and it really upset me. I haven't been thinking about it as much in depth as you with the ever changing world. I think that would have been amazing, showing that this could be a completely different game if you were a hardcore player. Mm-hmm. I think that would have completely shifted the place.
It would have changed everything.
It really would have. It would have become more competitive. It would have become like more of bragging rights. Like, hey, me and my squad are, this on hardcore, and it's like, oh wow, like how could you do that when the world's changing every 12 hours? Like, what if you logged onto your hardcore character and all of a sudden you had to beat a Black Tusk encounter because they took over the base of ops and you can't even spawn? You start the game and you're already in combat. And being hardcore, you can't die, because if you die, you lose everything.
Mm-hmm. And you can be mad for weeks. My hardcore character, I ran into this whole thing and I couldn't get out of it. That's what I thought hardcore was going to be. Mm-hmm. I was
that's how it should have been. To be honest, that sounds amazing. I didn't even think about it that way. My closed-mindedness, I was just thinking, man, I wish I could have a cool patch, but nothing. And you're over here thinking about all the other, man, that could have been amazing. They could have really done something with that. And it's even to the point where I've DM'd several developers, and I've tagged them in several Twitter posts where I'm just begging them to show hardcore some sort of love, because every time I mention it on my channel or every time I post a community tab pic of like my progress on my hardcore character, I get several people telling me, "Oh, well, I'm shade level, 1000 on hardcore," and it's like, man, you play more hardcore than most players play normal, and it's still in the beta mode. Like there's some hardcore player base there that the developers are just kind of ignoring, but uh they can't show you an apple and then uh give you a disadvantage for eating that apple, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're showing us, hey guys, here's this hardcore mode, you should try it. And then if you love it, you're basically being penalized because it's like, well, I loved it, but you're not adding anything to it. And why would I do this if the watch doesn't sync up with my other players? And if I'm not getting any patches, why would I do this when I could be on my normal character doing season 3 stuff, getting cool backpack trophies and patches? There's a lot more, like there's no hardcore outfit. I think you got a YOLO baseball cap after hitting like level 2, but there's nothing else in the whole game.
Oh
You get the
my.
baseball cap and you get like 4 patches, and that's it. It seems like an opportunity that they threw up there to see if it would stick, and then when it did stick, they had nothing to add on to it. And the developers that probably did this as like a weekend experiment, they're not working on it anymore. So now you have a beta game mode that a lot of people play day in, day out, that's getting shown no love at all. And then that kind of goes into the whole PvP thing, where PvP isn't getting shown any love. And if people understand anything from the first Division game, is that the PvP community was the Division community in Division 1. A, a lot of us love to do incursions and PvE like that, but the motto that I always thought of when playing the Division was I PvE to PvP. And that
Mm-hmm.
was like the motto of everyone, where I'll do all the incursions, I'll do all the resistance, but once I get all my gear, once I get that perfect build, I'm going into the dark zone. I want to go have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge chunk of the community for the Division, to the point where all of my videos that built me up on that last little stretch of Division 1 were all build videos and PvE centric videos and vendor reset videos, but all of which were to help the player get the build they needed to go PvP. It
Mm.
wasn't it it was very rare to see a video where a guy's like, "Hey, this is the best PvE build," and it was like, "Well, we all PvE. We want to know what's the best Predator's Mark build to get the best PvP bleed. We want to know how to be unkillable wearing Nomad. We want to know how to properly use Banshee." And it became this overall knowledge that everyone in the community, they knew how to PvE, they enjoyed PvE, and then the hardcore community took all their knowledge and all their build diversity from PvE, and then they went into the dark zone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad to see the complete opposite happen with the Division 2. And it's so opposite that if if they just keep catering to the PvE community come year 3, it just shows that this entire creative development team as a whole is completely different. Because what they've shown us since day 1 of Division 2 is that they are doing nothing like they did in Division 1 except for all the bugs and all the patches and all the ways of them to stretch out content. That's pretty consistent. But the way the content is being released is different, and it's not in a good way. It's in a pretty uneven way, in a sense that during year 2 to year 3 of Division 1, the average player base was either in Resistance doing the Horde mode, or they were in the Dark Zone, there or PV, conflict kind of deal. There was some strong survival player base and a little bit of underground. There were some still underground tryhards, but overwhelmingly, if you weren't trying to get level 100 on Powerhouse, then you were probably in the Dark Zone, getting your shit pushed in. And I just see that they stuck with the PvE part of it, but they completely negated the PvP part of it. And a lot of it I would blame on the community and not the developers, which is, is a nice little stab myself in the foot kind of thing. But I think that what they did is they tried everything they could to give the PvP community what they were asking for. And the Division 2 was a clear sign that they went overboard with that thought, where, you have to think about all the big problems with Division 1. So chicken dancing, that was a problem. How are we going to fix that? We can make it a cover-based game. Okay, that's fine. Next part. What's wrong with the Dark Zone? Well, it's too big. All right, so we'll split it up. Okay, done. What's the next problem? Well, there's a lot of kids that like to talk shit. Well, okay, so we'll enable a setting that'll turn on or off VoIP. Okay, that's good. What's next? Well, there's too many people in the Dark Zone, and when you go manhunt, everyone's just chasing you. Okay, so we'll cut the player down to half. So all of a sudden you have these small little areas that should be no holds bar, every man for himself, and it has now been turned into these 3 little sandboxes where if you kick sand on another person, they're either going to run away and never come back, or they're going to try to fight. And I'm talking all this because I PvP nonstop. I think I'm like top 0.2% of PvP kills on Xbox right now.
That's crazy.
I've maxed out all my characters on Conflict. They're all level 100. All my characters are max level in DZ, even though that doesn't fucking matter either. And what I've noticed is the PvP community has taken the biggest hit out of anybody in this gaming franchise, because the Dark Zone, and people that are going to be listening to each of these podcasts, I'm sorry in advance, I've said this I think on every single episode, is that in the Division 1, I could farm the Dark Zone by myself. I could start off in D1, and I could work my way all the way up to DZ9, and I would be able to run into 4, 5, 6 different groups of people. Some of them might be farming, some of them might be doing 1v1s, some of them might be doing manhunts. It's just really whatever you want. And the thing with that is that there was room for activities. If you like that movie, Step Brothers, there's so much room for activities. We could do karate in the garage, and there was this sense of space. Like if I were to go manhunt up in DZ9, and I knew people were farming in DZ2, I would know that they would not run up to get me anytime soon. And if they did, it's either because they really wanted to PvP, or, I'm manhunt. Something like that. there was always this room, this buffer space, I guess, if you will. And there's no buffer in Division 2, where there's no give and take. And in the Division 2, all this diversity that we had in Division 1, where I could see 1v1ers in DZ4, I could see manhunts up in DZ9, me and my buddies could be up in DZ1 farming landmarks. There was so much room to do your own stuff, where in Division 2, you have the opposite. It's like they threw us in one room, put something in the middle of the room and said go for it, and then the first person that got it has it, and everyone else is shit out of luck. And that's how the Division 2 PvP is. There's only 3 types of people in the Division 2 Dark Zone. You have the farmers, where they're only going in there to farm, and if you kill them, they will not come back.
That's
they do
me.
not care.
That's me.
Yeah, you don't care if I stole your stuff. You don't care. You just want me to go away.
That's me, man.
And that's the huge part of the Dark Zone right now. And as soon as I get a kill, they don't come back, and then I'm like, all right, I guess the Dark Zone's dead. And then you have to match make for a different Dark Zone because it's so small that you have to just keep changing your instances until you find a Dark Zone that works for you. And that could take up to an hour. Like, that could really take up a lot of your time because they changed it this drastically. And the next part is that you have the checkpoint campers. And the only way I can describe this is you go from the most PvE, I don't want a PvP, if you touch me, I'm gone type of person, to I PvP so much, if you leave this door, I will kill you type of person. And those are 2 completely different extremes. If this were a seesaw, they would be on the 2 completely opposite ends. Now, the third type of person in the Dark Zone is myself. What I like to do in the Dark Zone, because you do need to farm in the Dark Zone, because that is where you do get really good stuff. And there are PvP exclusive items that are very common in the Dark Zone, but they are very rare outside of the Dark Zone. Now, with saying that, my philosophy is with these really small, stupid Dark Zones is you PvE to PvP. Same mentality. What I do is with DoD, they know that I call it asserting dominance. If I go into a Dark Zone, I see a red landmark. I say, all right, guys, let's go hit these guys at this landmark and show them that we're in this lobby. Because then and there, it asserts dominance, and it shows me what of the 3 types of people you are. Either you're going to run and never come back, and I just took all your shit, and now I get this Dark Zone to farm. 2, you come back, and we actually get to have fun. Or 3, you're going to sit at the checkpoint and wait for me to go to the checkpoint. Now, these checkpoint campers, it's not just the ones that go rogue. It's also the ones that wait for you to go rogue. Now, there's more times than not that I will find myself becoming manhunt, and we'll be fighting the same 2 people. And then all of a sudden, one of my manhunt guys dies. He's at the checkpoint. He comes out, and all of a sudden, he's got 6 people on him. And it's like they're just sitting at these checkpoints, and that's just where they want to PvP. And to me, that completely kills all the fun. Is that in the first division Dark Zone, the checkpoints to area of I don't know what you would call that, area of operation, they were pretty equivalent. Where the 2 checkpoints were there because it would take you, 3 to 5 minutes to run from one area to the other. Where in the Division 2, it's the opposite. There's more checkpoints than there is area to where if I'm manhunt, I can only stay in like a 2-block radius because there's going to be a checkpoint to my east, to my north, and to my west all at the same time. And then you have to watch out for, oh man, what checkpoint are they going to go to? And then if I have a safe house behind me, then that means I'm not safe anywhere. And it just makes this like really one-dimensional PvP aspect of the game. And it really is a bummer to play sometimes. There's I'm trying now to breach out more into solo Dark Zone because like I said, I'm max with the whole conflict thing, and I've brought this up a few times too, but the way that they did conflict XP is so broken that unless you like PvP, there is no reason for you to ever get into conflict, because they made it to where Dark Zone XP equates to Shade XP, and Conflict XP also goes to Shade XP. But what they forgot to do is they forgot to actually bump up the XP from Conflict. So you need, let me see, you need 700,000 XP per watch level. In Conflict, you can only earn max up to 3,000, maybe 4 if you're like a god, but maybe 3,500 would be around max for a lot of people. And you're saying that you'd have to do that how many times to reach 700,000? So that's what, like 250 times? So, doing this XP like BS, they've made it to where conflict isn't even worth it if you're trying to max out your watch level, because I've honestly leveled up all my characters to max, and I have never had my watch level up while playing conflict. Never. But if I go into the Dark Zone and have my watch level up by the first landmark, and that kind of killed the conflict side of PvP, because now you have all these people that play Dark Zone are watch level 3,000-4,000, and all the people that are playing conflict are still watch level 4,500. And you're seeing that, wow, there's no sense of playing conflict. And then when you go into the Dark Zone, you see that there's only 3 different types of people in the Dark Zone, and then it really limits your Dark Zone experience. So overall, PvP is just like really falling behind, to where there's very small things I can give credit to, and there's a lot of things I can point out and say, you could really do better with this, you could really do better with that. And it's pretty sad, because in my eyes, Year 2 has completely fixed and given PvE players exactly what they want in every aspect, but the PvP players are completely left in the dark. But yeah,
that's man, and you already touched on it. You said that they overcompensated and swung too hard to appeal to the PvP community, and they made, and I think you're onto something. They made a lot of these changes at the onset of the game. They were trying very hard to, get the community to play their game.
Oh yeah.
It was the beginning of the game. So when people say, why should we have to do this? Oh, okay, it's okay, we'll do this. But not necessarily taking into account, what does the manhunt system look like?
Right.
How is that going to affect if we throw a bunch of people into these already small Dark Zone spaces? What is it going to look like? Should we do what we did in the Division 1, where at Red Storm we added more space, verticality? We used just a little bit of real estate, but created a more dynamic level system where you could run in and out and underground. And should we create more underground structures to make the Dark Zone feel bigger? Those are some of the things that they didn't address at the onset of the game, that I think really played into the the aspect of the game where it's like, you couldn't do anything other than just deal with what they had coming, and people were taking those temporary wins to mean, yay, they did this, when in reality they should have done. And that's one thing about game balancing, with the game like The Division. As much as it's a good thing to listen to your audience, sometimes gamers don't really know they really don't know what the implications of what they're asking for will be. Right. It's not like they don't know what they want, but they know what they want, but what are the implications of what they want? Is it going to be something that is that is feasible for them, or is it going to be something that becomes a nightmare?
Exactly, where it's we want this, but we're not thinking about what ramifications would come if these things were to be implemented.
Yes.
And now we're ending year 2 of the Division 2, still hating the thing that they did to try to fix the Division 1. And they were never really given an opportunity to go back. They were kind of pushed to the side and was like, all right, guys, the overwhelming percentage of community does not care for PvP right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on PvE. We're going to focus on these seasons. We're going to focus on these battle passes that get people to pay $10 a pop every couple weeks. And we're going to make our money. And whenever we want to, maybe we'll come back and fix PvP. And that's kind of where we're at now, where it's, hey man, I've given you my $10 for the first, however many seasons. I've given you my money for this. I've gone through the summit where it's already gone through 3 or 4 stages of upgrades. I've already done all that. I've sipped your Kool-Aid. I'm on your side. Now give me what I want. Because I tell you right now, the problem I have with developers, and it kind of stems off of what you said earlier, where I know how much time and effort goes into this stuff. I know. I've gone to school from computer science. I've gone to school for web design. I've gone to school for cybersecurity. I've gone to school for programming. I understand. And the problem that I see as a content creator and a consumer is that I see that there is far too much man time wasted on certain aspects that nobody has asked for, when they could have put a percentage of that time and effort into something the community asked for.
Hardcore mode.
Well, no, but
I'm just being silly. Like, the way it's set up is a beta. They never fleshed it out. So, essentially, what could that team have done if they had said, why don't you start working? Because year 2 was being developed when they did the beta. Why didn't they say, you know what, why don't you take this hardcore mode to the max? So once we launch year 2, we'll meet you where you are. So we launch year 2, we ship it, and then we throw more weight your end to start solving those back-end issues that players are wanting on the PvP side, on the PvE side. A map change is not unprecedented. It's been done in the Division history. So the PvP map could have been changed. The Dark Zone map could have been changed. These are the things that I've said a lot in my past videos. And, I usually come from a historical perspective. When I say, they need to modify the map, people are going to be like, oh, that's going to take a long time. They've done it before. It took a long time. And with the smaller team at Red Storm, too. It didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily just a couple of guys. It was a very small team. Terry and a few guys compared to what Massive has and can pull, together. So, I don't know.
I completely agree. And I know you've talked about a lot of these things, and so have I, but I think I just finally wanted to talk to you about it. Just because we really do hit a lot of the same tones, but it's very rare that we'll ever be able to, bounce them off of each other. Man, so this go straight into my thing about PvP in year 3 is that they're doing the same stuff they did in Div 1, but it's in different orders. Their priority has changed a little bit because of it. Where, how can I say that better? So in Division 1, PvP was in a good spot. It always was. You had your Ost Dark Zone that took out nearly half of the entire map of the game. You had later on you had the expansion, I believe it was expansion 2 or 3 with Last Stand and Skirmish.
Mm-hmm.
And then they even added PvP into Survival, which was my favorite. I love PvP Survival. Love it. Now, what they did there is they had that part done. It was good. I mean, yeah, there was, the shit talking, and there was, some bad stuff here and there, but overall PvP was in a good spot. There will always be metas, and with social media and YouTube the way it is, there will forever be metas. It's just what people like, what's the most powerful, what gets the job done the fastest. It's going to be your meta. A lot of people hate the word meta, but it's the way it is. And what the Division 1 had was it had changes in meta, but the consistency there was PvP was in a good spot. We didn't have a lot of fluctuations. There was the jump from stamina to toughness, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
but there weren't really big game changers. Now, year 2 of Division 1 was focused mainly on PvE because they already had PvP where they wanted it. So then they focused on Westside Pier, Resistance, incursions, and global events. And what this did is it shifted the player base. It went from PVE to PvP. Now we're all PvPing, and then they got us to go back to PvE. Hey, do resistance. Hey, do incursions. And it got us going back and forth, PvE, PvP. And what they completely jumped over for Division 2 is that they never established that consistency with PvP. It was at the bottom of the barrel at launch. At launch, we had during the damn public beta, we had Berserk and Clutch builds already made, and the game wasn't even out yet. And it was, hey, Berserk, no matter what you do, go get Berserk, 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 Berserk. And it got to the point where Berserk was so popular they took it out of the damn game. That's where the developers, especially in Division 2, they see what you're doing and they don't want you to do that. So they either nerf it or they take it out of the game because they want you to do other stuff. Like Thieves Den. There was no reason to take away the Thieves Den. If it was because of the vendor and they felt the vendor was giving too much benefit to PvP players, they could have simply took the vendor and put it at the DZ main entrance with the other vendor. But instead, they took out the entire thing. And that I thought that was horrible because in front of each dark zone, there's space for 2 characters, and there's only ever one for the dark zone vendor. It could have been easy to develop and program that same character in the Thieves Den to just pop out in the main entrance with the other vendor. I saw so many ways of going around that they completely killed another aspect of the Dark Zone that I thoroughly enjoyed. And the worst part is they didn't replace it with anything. In fact, they didn't replace it. They just took it. So they lowered PvP from where it even was. And this is just like the Dark Zone perks. Half of the Dark Zone perks don't matter. It's just there's so many little aspects of this game to where it's like you could have done so much and it just, I don't know, it just fell.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are my things. I know you're not a huge PvP person. You say it a lot in your videos.
In the Division 2
Well,
and the
I know you're
Division
a Mortal
1.
Kombat guy.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea how much I've
I'm sure
dude.
you'll kick my ass in some Mortal Kombat.
Dude, it's not even I don't know what it is, but I already gained so much joy and just enjoyment from, doing Mortal Kombat as a PvP. I used to play FIFA. That used to be my PvP, which is a sports game. Like, okay, whatever, son.
Yep.
But once I saw that EA didn't have redemption in their book for the next few years, I said, yeah, I'm good on FIFA. So I played PES, but PES doesn't really do a good job online for you to be able to go in PvP without bad connections. So I had nothing. And with the Division, I'm just not really good at shooters. I don't know when I ever will be. Maybe I need to practice. That's just it. But
what?
Yeah,
you can knock out legendaries with your eyes closed, but you can't shoot a player.
Come on. I'm bad at it. I really suck. So that was my biggest issue. It was that hurdle for me for a long time, and I said, if this is going to be the hurdle for the time being, I guess I could just focus on other things. And I did,
right.
And I just found, Mortal Kombat to be a lot more compelling. I bought MK11 at the time it came out. I was trying to make content on it on my second channel too, which was, a game I enjoy. That's usually the best way to do something like this. Make it on a game that you enjoy.
Oh, for sure.
And the YouTube algorithm did not like Mortal Kombat 11. Hated Mortal Kombat 11, like with the hatred of 20 fires. So that
was
failed.
It the copyright or was
it the
just
gore?
Oh, okay.
YouTube didn't like the gore. They marked it as violence and whatever. So that
I tried to go into Kingdom Hearts when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out.
Copyright, yeah.
I did the first day I streamed, and they took everything from that stream and said it was all copyright.
Yeah, that's that's from the owner of the copyright, big Disney.
Yeah,
that's
Disney,
them.
man. Mm-hmm.
I remember doing one Kingdom Hearts video on my other channel. That's my testing ground for stuff. And they also got hit with a copyright strike as well. Just a while later, they were like, "Oh, this has this on there." I said, "Okay." It's not like it doesn't really, have any major.
It's horrible too.
Whatever.
Not only that, but the reasoning is what do they say for the reasoning? They say likeness. There's too much likeness of each character, and it is copyright. And it's like, but I'm playing the game that they made, and it's like, nope, it's copyright.
Disney doesn't care, man.
No, and that's where Hamish and Yannick and a few of the developers they have publicly said on State of the Game before, and I think you've said it too, where we need to be more humble about being able to cover a game like this because they have given us the privilege to work on it. You know what I mean?
Ubisoft has given people the privilege to just use their IPs and have fun. They really do have at the core. I mean, yes, Ubisoft can appear as a money grabby company, but at the core they have, as crazy as it may sound, they have gamers at heart to try and execute some of their plans and some of their vision. And I know it's really tough to swallow that, but really, compared to, like I said, other companies, even some of my Star Wars content has also gotten claimed as well, because it is a Disney. I covered Jedi Fallen Order, but I covered that on my other channel too. So I'm trying to get a feel for who's more game friendly. Disney doesn't seem to really care. I think it's just like they would rather not even have anybody take a dime from anything that they make. They want all and 100% control, and it's their rights. That's their, it's their business model. I'm not worried about that. If I wanted, I can write my own stories. I mean, I ain't fronting. And they've already been able to acquire their own stories and narratives, and so they, I feel like they have the right to enjoy those as well. if one day I decided that no one should make a dime from any of my IPs or whatever, I mean, I would be happy if people would respect that, you know, but I don't know if I'll make that decision. But I'm just saying. So these are some of the challenges that, you know, you face as a content
Well,
creator.
uh, uh, sidebar there,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Developer. If you do make this game and it goes places, I would like to cover it. Just saying.
By all means, cover it. I've been a beneficiary of a company that said that said by all means cover it. I'm never, you know, you
Hmm.
got to be willing to understand. So this is the beauty. If you don't play it, I have the mindset that I'm probably going to be the only one playing it. You know what I mean? Like I set
Oh, I
myself up
got you.
to keep my expectations realistic. So I'm going to actually be depending on guys like you and guys within the extended family to
Yeah.
walk through this journey. No one's an island. You know, it's nice to be able to say, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah, I developed a video game by myself," but really, did you though? You know, if you go look at it and assess it, you know, you used a pillar that some guy designed in a 3D software. You used a plugin that helped you avoid lines and lines of code that you don't know. Does that make sense? You know,
Mhm.
it was easy for you
Yep.
to be able to say this, but you know, developing a game as a solo developer is just that you were the guy who saw the vision from start to end, but along the way, holla at the people who hooked you up. Even if you paid them for, you know, their services, they still sat there and slaved hours and on end so that you didn't have to. And that is the same thing with the
Mhm.
division as well, where these guys, they did the job, they put themselves on the line, they took the risk to give us a game that has finally brought us to the point where, as content creators, we're able to, you know, we're able to just benefit from their hard work. And they say we can. They want us to because they understand that there is some sort of a benefit as well for them. But at the same time, they could also say, you know what? No, let's just let the guys who we you know, send to a hotel cover our games. The game will never ever get any negative coverage. You know what I mean? The guys that we brought to the
Yeah.
event, why don't they cover our games? You'll never
Right.
know if you should buy the game or not. So
Well, hold on. A great example there. When they did the ETF a couple years ago,
mm-hmm,
they flew everyone out to Sweden.
mm-hmm.
I can guarantee you, not one of those content creators made a bad video. Not one.
I mean, that's usually how it goes because even though
Hmm.
it's not, you know, even though they may not say physically, "Hey, we're hooking you up," but there is the implied benefit that softens you up a little bit. Yeah, you know, I got to shake the devs' hands and all that.
Yep.
You know, how am I going to? In fact, there was so I got super anxious when I heard that you actually had opportunities to meet with developers. Now, if you gave me an opportunity to meet with a developer, it will be strictly on something along the lines of this, where I'm asking questions like, by the way, how do you guys do this in a video game? Because I need the knowledge. I'm not going to be asking you about, hey, you know, I would like to get an insider on your next big event. You know, that sure be nice, but honestly, I'll just wait till it comes out because now my perspective has changed. And if I'm picking a developer's brain, it's almost like I want to beg you if I can be on the on the moderation and throw a few
Right.
questions in when you're interviewing any devs. Just tell them,
Yeah.
yeah, we have somebody that has like 5 questions and stuff for
It,
whatever, and I can send the questions as part of the package to them. And you know, I just want to know, you know what I mean? And I think it will also provide value for the developer side of the whole thing to come out so the community can know, oh, this is what it entails to do things like this. So it's a
exactly.
different mindset right now. So yes.
I completely agree. And I think um if and when I ever do have developers on, I'd probably reach out to certain people like yourself to see if you did have a question or two because um I know myself personally, if I ever get, I think I had Yannick back in Division 1 on State of the Game. Yannick was reading the comments off of YouTube back when they had YouTube comments because the community got so toxic that they had to disable those. But on YouTube, there used to be a live chat option for their Stay of the Game streams. And one of those, I wrote Yannick a nice, long, elaborate question. And even him just trying to say kamikaze, he gave up because he found out that my name was pretty long. But just the fact that I heard him just kamikaze, and then he like stopped, and I was like, oh, so close. It's like we will jump up and down with excitement if we can just talk to these developers, because there's so much stuff and information that we learn on our end that they have no clue about at all. And vice versa, where it's like, why the hell is this like this? And they're like, well, we got caught in a little programming thing where if we do this, it's the same in this area and this area, and we can't really make them two separate instances. And then it's like, oh, okay, I get more of the block structure you're working with. And on the other end, they can talk to users. Like, if I was a developer, the number one audience I would be going after are the people that are day in, day out enjoying the content. Because those people would know. They would know, hey, if I go into this part of the map on conflict, no one can shoot me and I can shoot them. Wouldn't you want to know about that? Because there is a spot in conflict right now that'll do that. And it's not even just one. I think on the map Wharf, there's 4 different locations on that map alone that you can get outside of the map into a quote unquote safe zone. And you can sit there for the entire map. No one can hurt you, nothing. And these type of things will never be seen because these developers aren't sitting there playing conflict match after conflict match. They're over there developing new content. They're over there thinking of the next thing. So they need to talk to people that are constantly playing their content to, day in, day out. I mean, I don't even want to admit how much time I put into these games. But I do have 3 complete characters and a complete hardcore character. So that'll say about it. But just the amount of things and problems that I've seen, or like yourself have seen, or whoever else who has a couple thousand hours played or whatever have seen, it's a lot of information that they're not getting because there's this lack of communication, transparency. They'll sit there on chat and they won't read a specific question. What they do is they see a topic. Hey, he just asked a question about conflict. That's PvP. There's nothing about PvP, which completely negates the question altogether and just moves past it. Or if someone's asking about, hey, what about this spot in the dark zone east, checkpoint, and they just skip over and they're just like, nothing for PvP. And it just seems like no one's voice is getting out there, so they're not really getting the information that we're trying to give them. And then they'll go and try to talk to the same 4 or 5 people on Reddit or Twitch or whatever. I mean, over the years, you've noticed that Hamish, so there's 2 huge things that are common, well, 3 actually, that are common with Hamish. Have you been watching the State of the Games the entire time?
I've been jumping in and out because it usually almost conflicts with a portion of my break at work, but
Right.
that's about as much as I can watch.
So Hamish has been the host for pretty much the entire thing. And it used to kind of be like the Hamish and Yannick show. It was really funny, like way back in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of just stuck with Hamish. So Hamish has 3 common things that he does in a lot of his State of the Games. 1, you can count on Hamish to give you these facial reactions and recognitions to certain subjects, whether it be one of the developers will say a question that they just read in chat, and then you'll see Hamish's face on either he agrees or disagrees, or he knows or doesn't know. And more times than not, in fact, it's always pretty much true to a certain point that he'll either give away the answer or he'll just beat around the bush, because in a sense Hamish is the closest to us that anyone is over there at Massive. He's basically the creative lead for the community. And that's the first part, is like if you hear Yannick talking about PvP and Hamish rolling his eyes, you know how Hamish feels about it. The next part is Hamish always shouts out the exact same content creators. Over the span of the last 4 or 5 years, it's always been the same 4 or 5 content creators and streamers. And another thing, especially in Division 2 State of the Games, is that he always shouts out the same people for the agent highlights at the end of the video. If you wait for the scroll, you'll see the exact same names every week. and it just shows that these developers have these inner circles, that they look at their inner circles, kind of like what you said about developing your game, that you would want to consult your inner circle about your game to make sure that it's good to go and that we approve, and we try to find whatever's wrong with it, X, Y, and Z. And they try to do the same thing, but it seems to be a very, very small circle. In my head, I would think I would want, if I was a developer, I'd probably want a couple hundred people in my circle. And then I would probably want about 50 in my tight circle, and then probably about 10 in like a private circle. And what that would do is that would give this whole mess of variables and data together to where you could be more, I guess you could prioritize your updates a little bit better, because obviously with them joining, well, that would go off the subject. So what this does is it shows that they have small inner circles, and they're not fully listening to the community. They are, but it's probably the same 20 to 30 people. And content creators, it's about 5. Like there's not that many. And over the years, I've only been in contact probably with about 4 or 5 developers over the years. But as of right now, only one of them is active. All the rest of them have either been gone for years or, whatever, switched jobs. And it just shows that not only are they focused on these inner circles, but their inner circles aren't there all the time. And then their circles get smaller and smaller, and then they get disconnected from the community. And then all of a sudden they're doing all this PvE shit. Like, what really set me off the top was appearance mods. The whole transmog thing.
Transmogs.
And I think that set me off because
Are you there? Mr. Vondoom.
face.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Hey.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I can hear you now.
Me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry about that. I lost you for that whole portion.
What?
I said I lost you for just a few seconds there.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
But you're back. I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was talking about the transmogs.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that was the point where the community was on the edge of their seats waiting for, like, this big epic thing. And it just threw everyone back in their seats with disappointment.
Yeah, I didn't even, once they start talking cosmetics, I tune out. I just don't bother. I can understand wanting to keep monetizing your game and all that, but bro, if you're not gonna bring anything of value, just I don't know if we can say that cosmetics are not valuable. They are valuable to the developer. The developer can continue to make money from it, but honestly, I would rather not. I would rather not deal with your cosmetic sales pitch. I just tune out of it because if the game was in a great place, I'd buy cosmetics in a heartbeat. I bought cosmetics in the Division 1, but the Division 2, I've been really stingy with spending any extra money because, there's much that could have been done, and I protest. The way I protest is, with my wallet. I'm not giving you any money extra because you're not giving me things that I would love to see in some cases. Now, yes, they've given me things that I feel are sufficient for the money that I've given them. But nothing more. You know what I mean? Nothing more. That's kind of how I am. So my protest is basically, wallet based. I'm not gonna pay any money for this. Like one season, I was like, I'm not paying for that season. I grinded all the way to 100. I got the exotics and all that. They were like, oh, you have to get the season pass for this mask. I'm like, no, I'm not paying for that. I would on a different day, but no, I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
So that's how I've been able to reconcile, whenever their shortcomings are. But also, I also see reason with so many things that happen in game development that it's just, in a sense, tragic,
Yeah, but you also remember that was it Activision that won that big advertising microtransactions bill with the government? I believe it was Activision, where it completely just changed the game when it came to like microtransactions, and now everything is either battle pass or season pass or DLC based just to get the most bang for your buck, where now it's not you pay $60 for a full game, it's you're paying $60 for a 40% game. And if you want 50 and 60, you need to pay another 20. And then if you want the rest of the game, well, you're going to have to wait till next year and then buy the expansion.
Yeah.
Where they're stretching us out for more playability so that they can have better ratings, which gives them better budget. And then they can give us more microtransactions, which makes them more money. It's just a very ugly, vicious cycle.
It really is. It really is a weird cycle. Yes.
I really think they should just bring back the ETF and actually bring it with like some dedicated player base.
They do have an ETF
creators.
actually. They've been doing them, but they've been doing them more solo because apparently a lot of the ETF members get harassed by people in the community and stuff. They've been doing ETFs. They just don't announce them. They just don't talk anything about them anymore.
Right, but there's no. Yeah, but that means it's a hidden number of a select few.
It is. I mean, can you blame them when people are getting harassed though? Like you said, there are people in the community who just want to stir up a storm, and I can almost bet you they've probably taken their drama to those people who just got selected for an ETF after applying because there's an application process, and so people probably just took their drama to them. And now we don't have an ETF anymore. We don't have we don't have a public ETF anymore. So I guess that's where the problem might be.
Games like Breakpoint that came out shortly after the Division 2, they have a similar thing called Delta Company, I believe it's called. Or Delta...
Delta Company.
I believe it's Delta Company. And it's their equivalent of an ETF for Division 2. And one of the guys on a previous podcast, his name is Rogue Gaming UK. And he's pretty active with that in that game. And he was a prior Division content creator as well. But he's obviously focused more on that game and such. And he's been explaining how their version of that is not just a private select few of people. It's also a private select few of people with, people with Reddit backgrounds, with people with just hardcore playing backgrounds, and there's certain groups within this, and it's multiple categories of people that are all within this Delta company. And
Hmm.
it after he explained it fully, it just showed that it was so in depth, and they are so active that there are certain things that they were able to pull off publicly, including getting, I believe he said, a raid out early opposed to delayed, like the Division 2. And then things like PvP balancing and just overall game consistency. They're able to provide more feedback to the developers to get fixes done faster, because there's a huge community of people that work together to do that, where the Division 2 just has, like you said, a small private select few of dwindling players. And
Mm-hmm.
from the start of ETF to now, I could probably get away with saying it's like 20% of the people that were in the initial ETF are currently in that. And that would be sickening if I was true. Because you have this game, this Ghost Recon game that I'm comparing, both Tom Clancy's, both Ubisoft, both came out in the same year, and both have two completely different looks on that. Like the harassment part, that's zero tolerance. I have no
Maybe there
idea.
isn't. Maybe there isn't any harassment, but I'm just saying it's not without saying that there could have been some level of
Yeah, where like I guess their subs are like demanding answers or something, and they just can't tell them. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of stressors that are involved with
many of the
that.
ETF people too, which is strange. Many of them are not content creators. If not, I don't
Right.
think any of them are content creators anymore. They're actually just players who literally just play the game.
And now, so then, of course, it would be private. There would be no public anything. If it's just private with private gamers, then technically the ETF is like its own. I don't know how to put that. I mean, the I always thought from the Division 1 to the Division 2, there were people like Butter, Wids, I mean, even Epic Slayers, um, uh, NGN Gaming, Afflicted Gamer, Roar Talents. All of these content creators were a part of the ETF, and none.
Not a lot of content creators have been a part of the ETF. I think it's only probably been like the first wave that did have a lot of content creators. I think
But
after that it started. Well, it wasn't. The goal actually, even from when they started it, they said, well, this is not something that's only going to be for content creators. This is something that we want to be for a larger part of the community.
right.
So
But what I was saying is that it had content creators in it,
yes,
where
yes.
there was this old ETF that never really evolved into anything. It kind of dissolved, actually, and it compared to other games that have come out the same time. It's like insane to see that it just dissolved into like this little private, like you said, solo basic testing. I mean, it's kind of sad, man, because come to think of that, like whenever I was doing that private server, just like a lot of other people, um, a lot of it was solo.
Mm.
Like whenever I was testing, because no one I knew had it. The only people I knew that had it were all content creators. Now, obviously, there was probably people from Reddit, people that know some developers, people that are part of the ETF. they have it as well, but I didn't know anybody. And I wasn't told anything except for, hey, you have access to this, you can play this, have fun, you can, do this, this, and this. And that it completely just shut out the whole like community aspect of it. Like, why not set up these servers with the ETF people? Why not have all them to where it's like, if I go to the base of ops, I see everyone else that's a part of that private server in the base of ops. And it's not tested that way. It's tested solo. What does our developer build do when you're playing it? And that's all they care about, solo experience. But I think doing that kind of takes away from I don't know, the overall community aspect of it, and feedback overall, I think would increase if you could bring these people together and not keep them in the dark. You know what I mean?
Very true. Very, very true.
Because
that's really interesting that you said that. That if they could, I don't think like you said, they really have a lot of experience on how to consolidate their content creators into their pipeline, and that's what Destiny has done a good job on.
You're right.
They've been able to get their content creators to be kind of a huge portion of their development process, whereas I think Ubisoft is largely secretive, and they have to follow their ideals, and so the good old way of doing things, still hinders a lot of potential, but there's also risk, that you can't really blame them for. This community hasn't necessarily, it's not our fault, it's just elements within the community that haven't necessarily shown, okay, we understand that this game is bad in this area, but how can we fix it? And let's talk our way till we get there, rather than, slap every dev on the way to getting the game working.
Right.
That's kind of the mentality almost, as it seems. And devs are humans too. They are subject to creative decisions and market factors that influence what they do. Say their creative director has been basically sitting on his butt since the 3-year window when they said, okay, let's get this game rolling, right? And then it's time for the game to come out. They spent 1 whole year doing a preview demo, and now it's time for us to actually get the game going. And oh no, now the creative director is going to do what? He's going to crunch the team, because if not, he's going to get fired. He's going to get sacked. So what is the environment guy going to do? The environment guy hasn't necessarily been given much of a direction, nor has he been held accountable. But then, since the environment guy hasn't been given a lot of direction, the level guys, depending on how the company works, in the case of Massive, they actually bring the level designers and the environment designers, with a little lag. So they design the world first, and then they get the level designers in there to come and start leveling it out. Like, okay, creating structures and rooms and buildings and environments that players can interact with mission structures. And then you have mission, designers as well too. So if all these people haven't really paid much attention to the pipeline of building this house, what you're going to have is the electrician sitting out there saying, well, the plumbing guy hasn't finished up his work. There's no way I can wire the house.
Right.
So those are also things. And so you get the environment guy face palming himself going, well, I can't move forward if you guys don't check off on this. I'm not going to go build, Foggy Bottom, or the environment team we're not going to build Foggy Bottom if you don't approve, the White House area. You know what I mean? If that doesn't work. So there are all these different spinning wheels that you just have to.
So
it's inevitable to come to the point where you're just like, man, this is a dumpster fire if we don't consider all of these things.
So what you need for this, I've got your solution. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're on the edge of your seat.
Oh boy.
All right. Here we go. Big reveal. The solution to that is to have more dedicated community developers who can act as liaisons from the developer to the content creator. because you can easily have a dedicated community developer that is focused on weapons. They know start to finish every beta, every patch, everything that they've ever done for weapons. They can be the person that goes on State of the Game no matter what, and they know. Boom. You could have 50 different developers go in and out that have touched the weapons, that have nerfed, buffed, whatever, but you have this consistent community developer that is focused on that subtype or that category, and they release the information to the public. That way, they are the one all be all. If there's anything, they're the AskJeeves.com, if you remember that.
AskJeeves.com. I remembered AskJeeves.com.
So that was basically Google. It was basically Google before Google.
Yes.
But
yes.
But I think if you kept, I mean, it wouldn't even have to be like a different community developer for each aspect. You could easily do one that's like gears and weapon, one that's like missions, one that's PvP, and then just keep that person as that figure point, because all this mix and match that they do on State of the Game, not only does it show that developers are just coming in and out, they don't fully know what the hell they're talking about, but it also shows that some of these developers don't play the damn game and they just develop it. Like it's beyond clear, especially in year 1 of the Division 2, where State of the Game, some of the developers would say stuff and I would correct them like out loud. And then they're like, "Oh yeah," and then these whatever, and then I'm like, don't you mean this? Aren't you the developer? And then it just shows that it's like you said, like, hey, we've contracted these guys to do elements, we've contracted these guys to be control point guys.
Sorry, you're saying that, but this, which is even before you. I'm sorry to cut you off. Oh yeah, and then add the other studios that also help them with all kinds of other stuff too.
Exactly.
Like so 4 studios work on the game in a sense.
Because Hamish is the only one that's been constant. And I think we would need maybe 5 of Hamish. Because Hamish is talking to these developers one-on-one, and yes, it gives us a lot of insight on what's going on, but it also takes these developers away from their actual job, which is developing and not talking to the community, because it also shows a lot of these developers don't have the best speaking skills, and sometimes they end up confusing the audience more than they should, or making the audience think something. And I think if you had more of these Hamish type positions where it's him talking to the same 5 people, but these 5 people are constantly telling you what's changing with this, what's going on with this.
Weren't they doing that at first, where they just did a short blurb with a question? They also have Tyler there, Riley, the content creator from The Division, who got a job there. He was doing that before. I wonder if they've put him into intense training and converted him into like a developer.
There you go.
That's a possibility, because another thing too is probably manpower and labor. Mm-hmm. What are we paying this guy for? We're paying him just to talk to the community? Well, what if we taught him like basic modeling, where he could just make buildings, and then we could send our more experienced guys to come in and just clean up after him? You know what I mean? So they probably stick him in a place for like 4 weeks, do a 4-week intensive, and then make some good use out of him in terms of the development process. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking out loud.
I've got a one-up for you already.
Yes, hear it. Mm-hmm.
Why not content creators?
Oh boy, they will pee their pants before they let any content creator do that. I mean, Ubisoft is chill though, but man, I don't know. You never know.
Well, you just gave that clear example. He was a content creator, and now he is a content specialist for Ubisoft. He's been working there for over a year.
Yes.
He's a content specialist. I've even shout him out on Twitter. I asked Massive and Ubisoft if they had any of these content specialist job offerings, or if his was just like a one-off deal, because I'm actually interested in that. Like, what if, all right, let's just say, because you said it in the beginning of this podcast, you said that you will continue this YouTube role until someone offers you something that is so much better that it would take you away from this, because not
It
only
has to
do
be
you enjoy
outlandish,
it,
not just better,
right?
outlandish.
Okay, so what else is outlandish but, hey, Gamey Daddy, what if you want to be our missions and seasons representative for Ubisoft,
Good
and
lord.
what we do is we give you a full-time ETF position where you are content specialist. You are constantly testing every patch of this game, no matter what. However, you are also, dedicated to a 1 week, state of the game where you have to be the representative of everything missions and, seasons. I
That's
mean,
probably how
does
I would do my own development. Whatever. I'm that kind of person, honestly. A corporation is limited by its a corporation is usually limited by its need to keep things in a weird pipeline. But the guys like us that do the groundwork, that don't necessarily care about the all of the fine details.
right?
This is the area that I feel we would succeed in,
Well,
because we don't have we push the boundaries because the tide is against us,
yes.
if you get what I mean. So that's a very amazing. I mean, yes, if somebody said to me, "Oh, would you like to do this?" and I had to do it on my own terms and stuff, I'll be happy to do that. But I've looked at Ubisoft jobs, man. They want you to move to a new city, and I'm like,
I know, man, but just think of this, man. It's remote and you can connect to them on State of the Game via Zoom.
perfect. I'm down with that.
I mean, come on.
If they're
I I
willing to
should
take the
I
breaks
should be.
off, if they're willing to take the breaks off and not
Oh my
worry about
gosh.
those requirements,
I should
perfectly
I should
fine.
be their PR guy, man. Honestly.
Perfectly fine. If they are willing to take the breaks off, they will definitely get the participation that they're looking for, without any stress or any issues. They will
It's
get
my
it.
dream, man. It's
They
my
will get it,
dream.
no doubt.
I
I
want that
mean,
job.
no doubt.
Give me
And I
that
mean,
job.
I'm really, like, I'm serious. Like, if they would take the breaks off, they are definitely in for some measure of success. That, man.
Well, so think of it this way too, man. Like, I've been describing to you the future of the YouTube market, and how our our demographic. Okay, so it's kind of like that movie Dazed and Confused. You know the cool thing about content creating?
I
What's
haven't
that?
haven't heard
I
it.
get older, but everyone else stays the same age. And it's old. Sorry, it's a Matthew McConaughey uh, quote from back in the day. But Dazed and Confused, it's kind of like a stoner movie. Um, it wasn't that big of a movie when it came out. So, anyways, the whole thing of content creating is that us, the content creator, we might get older, but our demographic will forever be between the ages of 20 and 60. And the
Mm-hmm.
way YouTube and the YouTube market is, it's going to hit that 20 part here in the next few years, and we are all going to get a huge boost. The whole market's going to get a huge boost. All of a sudden, all these big titles from Ubisoft are just going to keep getting bigger because their demographic's going to get bigger. Because video games, even from my childhood to now, have grown so much that even from the last couple of years with YouTube, same with video games, there's people that are in their teens, 16-year-old kids that are winning millions of dollars off of Fortnite tournaments. Like the gaming industry is just getting bigger by the year. And what's going to happen is us as the content creator, we're going to become more of a figurehead in this industry, because we're going to be able to hold a percentage, not just our own community. We're going to be able to hold a percentage of their consumer base at our, at our content fingertips.
Are you supposed to be
And
saying this stuff in public? This is trade secrets.
hey, man, this is what
I said
what I'm
these are
saying.
our trade secrets. We
I
can't give this out just yet. I mean,
Hey,
I'm just
man,
joking, man.
this is just a side hustle hobby of mine. I
It
mean, if it
is,
takes
but you
off, it
know,
takes off.
it is. I
But
feel you. I feel you. I'm just saying, you're dropping dimes, man. You're dropping
I
clues.
know, and what I'm saying, well, I mean, let's just say, you know, however many thousand listen to this from me and you. I mean, it's still only going to hit maybe 5 developers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it should really be a lot more than that. And as this time goes on and our passion for content creating goes on, we're going to become more of those influencer figureheads, to where these companies will not be able to get rid of us unless they get us a job with them. It'll be the only way. It's either you work with me on my terms or you give me a job. And that's how it's probably going to end up being,
They've been trying to
because
recruit. One day Hamish was shamelessly trying to recruit Solid FPS on a state of the game.
yeah, the bromance between those two. I don't know.
Well,
He shot out that dude like 10 times.
he's an asset. He's definitely he's got a keen eye for games.
Yeah,
He's
that's
got a
very
keen
true.
eye for games. So I would want him if I was developing a game. I would want him on my team. There will be valuable stuff to gain from just the fact that he's able to clean through content like with tenacity. You know, I don't care who your game testers are. When a streamer is grinding for the hustle, you know, they're grinding with a different mindset and a different filter too. Your game testers might be a little nice because they eat lunch with your devs.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, but your streamer, your hustler guy is like, yo, what is this trash? You
Yeah.
know, so I think that's another thing that they probably need to understand is they need the people on the outside that don't have the filter. Sure, it may be rough, it may be harsh, but it does provide a certain level of accountability for them as well. So, man, it's a double-edged sword, man. It really
It
is.
really is.
It's a double-edged sword.
Let's wrap up the podcast on a high note there, man. I know I've taken your time up long enough.
Oh,
We're both
no
family
worries,
men,
man.
and
I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. We
I have
planned
to.
for it, so
Yeah, no, I was hoping it would go this smooth, and it did. I mean, I feel like I could keep talking, but like you said, I don't want to drop too many more dimes.
yeah, save some of those for the insiders, and it's a privilege. It's one of those things where we take the risk and put ourselves out there.
Hmm.
So some benefits
And
are for
and
sure needing to be
the
ours.
biggest quote you should take from that is, with risk come reward.
Hmm.
And we're risking a lot. I mean, just as a content creator, as just starting a channel the way we did with such a small market compared to now, I mean, it sacrifices a lot as a family person, as a partner, as a father, that there has to be rewards somewhere in the in game.
Hmm.
And the more we wait, the more we build, and the bigger we are, the louder our voice is going to be, the bigger reward we're going to get. So I mean, in the end, it's a win-win, because what we're doing, we did out of the creativity of our own minds, and the power that comes with that cannot be subjugated to one company or another, unless like we just said, they hire you on and make you. And I think the longer this road goes on, the better it'll be, especially for people like you and me. Look at that.
Look at you rhyming.
I know. I'm saving all the good stuff for last.
With no
man.
effort, too.
It was a pleasure, man.
It was
really
a pleasure.
was.
Thank you so much, man. I do appreciate the opportunity to do this. I mean, you've literally like helped me expand my horizon a little bit. It's easy to be in a rut, and it's nice to reach out once in a while to other people who feel or who see things the way you see them,
Right.
or who even share commonality and have walked your walk. It's very different, for other people who may have experienced similar things, but somebody who's actually walking your walk is an invaluable resource to once in a while get to speak to extensively. So I really do appreciate the time you've taken to put this stuff together.
Oh, for sure, man. I learned something new every day, and it's a pleasure, especially being like I said, I've been a subscriber of yours for 2 years now, almost 3. Come December, it's almost been 3 years.
That's crazy.
I've been a I mean, I got you to say my name. You said my name in a stream, and I straight up like stopped what I was doing, went and told my wife. I was like, babe, this dude has like 12,000 subscribers. He just said my name on stream. You know how big that is? That's huge. Babe, he just said my name. I was like, we need to look at the subscriber list. I bet I just got a subscriber. He just said my name.
That's
and
funny.
That's just how it goes, man. And,
that's funny.
And time goes on, man. It's hilarious. I love it. And continue with your content. A huge fan, obviously. I try to pop into your streams every once in a while. But
yeah, you're a mod. I think you're the only moderator on my stream right now.
Oh, man. There you go. Hell yeah. I'll hold that blue wrench with pride.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, man, just continue what you're doing. What I'm planning on doing with this podcast is after I do my ring around the rosy with all the creators and streamers, I want to have more people on again. And obviously, you would be a person I would definitely want to have on again, so we could talk more about other stuff, because I think this is more of like a breaking the ice kind of podcast for everybody. And then when I do it again for like round 2, it'll be fresh, stuff, because we're already talking about how